Good morning, everyone. We are here to hopefully see the first manned test flight of the Boeing Starliner spacecraft. And, oops, let me just fix this here. We got 1 hour, 58 minutes, and 9 seconds. As you can see on the screen. 1 hour, 58 minutes, and 9 seconds. And hopefully this goes off today. We were here on Saturday, and the launch got scrubbed less than 4 minutes before the start of the launch. So we're going to have some live coverage for you. We are going to take your comments and questions on the air. How about that? What is the audio they're playing on this right now? Let me just see what audio they're playing on this right now.
If I could be honest. It's a little hot, but again, those are not launch constraints at all. Just maybe Megan D and Mike constraints as the day goes on, but we'll be waiting on the official word from that weather brief.
All right, anyway, so we'll be checking in with the audio too. But the crew is loaded in now, and a little less than 2 hours till launch time. This Boeing Starliner is this would be its first manned test flight, and it is supposed to actually take 2 astronauts to the International Space Station for about a week. That's what's supposed to happen on this flight. It's supposed to go to the International Space Station, dock with the International Space Station, and stay there for about a week. Hopefully this happens. We'll see. Our viewer, the one and only, says, I pray for the astronauts. Desert Darlene says, ugh, they got to sit there for 2 hours. Well, I mean, I'm sure they have stuff to do. I'm guessing they're excited to go. Let's see here. Is this a manned mission? Yes, it is. It is a manned mission. Our viewer Ray Old says, I hope for a successful flight. Guy who likes Ecclesiastes says they're trying again. Yes, they are trying again. Kathy Oates says, hopefully they can launch today. If not, they need to call Elon. Patricia Daniels is watching from Peoria, Illinois. Yes, as Lamar says, there is a SpaceX Starship launch tomorrow, which we might cover that tomorrow morning too. Yes, the reason for the delay last time, Sushi, was that one of the computers, they have several, I think they have 3 different computers that basically control things, and one of them was responding a little slower than the others. So it was some sort of computer issue. But apparently that's been taken care of. But they have triple back. They have 3 different computers, I think all doing the same thing as backup. But one of them was a little slow in responding. Let me see what they're saying. Hang on a second.
Great question. How do you describe a spacesuit? Well, it's made out of cloth and some puncture-resistant material. I think a lot of it's Nomex. And on the inside of this suit, and it's really it's all like almost one piece. There's a reason for that. Because it has to hold pressure, right? So it's kind of like a hoodie on top that the visor can float.
Hey, I wanted to just give you a little background here for those who are not familiar with Boeing Starliner. So this is a Boeing built. So you have the Starliner, which is the capsule where the crew is in right now, and that's about 15 feet in diameter, and that sits atop this Atlas V rocket. And this Starliner is supposed to take humans to and from low Earth orbit, and it's NASA. One thing NASA wants to use it for is to take humans to the International Space Station. So for about 10 years, hang on a second here. From 2011 to 2020, the U.S. had no way to get astronauts to the space station other than flying them on Russian rockets. But then in 2020, NASA started using the SpaceX Crew Dragon spacecraft. And they have, I want to say, over 10 times taken astronauts to the International Space Station in Crew Dragon in the SpaceX Crew Dragon spacecraft. But they want a second spacecraft available in case there's an issue with the first one. They would like to have two different types of spacecraft to go to the space station. So this would be the second one. This would be the second one. But this is still in test flight stage, although I believe this would be the last test flight if it's successful. And this flight is going to take 2 astronauts to the space station today, assuming everything goes as planned. And also, the launch time today is, as the New York Times says, they call it an instantaneous launch window. So it's got to launch at 10:52 a.m. I don't know how many seconds of delay they can have or something, but it's got to launch on time. It can't wait 5 or 10 minutes to launch. And then the next available launch time would be tomorrow at 10:29 a.m. And then the first launch there was a launch attempt on May 6th, and then that was scrubbed. That was an issue with a valve on the rocket. I think there were a couple issues with that. I'll have to look that up. But there was an issue that caused the May 6th launch to get scrubbed. And then we were here on Saturday, in less than 4 minutes before launch, a computer issue caused the launch to be scrubbed. The New York Times says technicians have replaced a faulty power component to fix the computer issue. And Starliner is generally behind schedule. I believe originally, according to Wikipedia, the first Boeing Starliner manned test flight was supposed to be in 2017. Hang on a second. I'm gonna put the volume on here.
All part of it right there. It's a very emotional event, and of course, I'm an Air Force guy, and I don't talk about emotions a lot, but launch is definitely an emotional event.
Yeah, that's a great distinction, because you're right. I think when people think feel, or ask about feel, it's answering physically how you feel, but really,
there is that's the Starliner. The Starliner spacecraft sits on top of the Atlas V rocket.
What will the crew be doing during their stay on the ISS?
Well, Megan, you mentioned that we're looking at somewhere around an 8 to 10 day mission for Butch and Sunny, and most of the time on the ISS they're going to be working for Starliner, doing some testing with Starliner and certification. Right, we're going to see what it's like to take out the cargo, put in down mass cargo, things that need to come down. We're looking at seeing how to set up the inside of Starliner in case there's emergency aboard the International Space Station. Now, for Butch and Sunny's mission, chances are really small, but for a long duration mission, we do have to set up things like an ammonia sensing kit and a few other things that are standard for all the other spacecraft that visit the space station, and we just want to see how it works with Starliner. They're going to pretend that Starliner is a safe haven, which is a 24-hour lifeboat that they can hang out on the space station in case there is emergency aboard space station, and that helps certify saying Starliner is ready for long duration missions. And so Butch and Sunny and along with the rest of the team are going to get this flight test data.
Yeah, and you detailed some of them, but there's a total of 87 flight test objectives and many more operational capability checkouts that.
All right, let me take some comments and questions from you guys. So we got 1 hour and 48 minutes. This is in Cape Canaveral, Florida, at the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, and you're looking at the Boeing Starliner spacecraft on top of the Atlas V rocket. An Atlas V rocket is made by the ULA, which is, what is that, United Launch Alliance? of which Boeing is a part. ULA, it says ULA on the rocket. ULA is United Launch Alliance, a joint venture between Lockheed Martin and Boeing. That's what the ULA, you see it says ULA up there. And then NASA is the anchor customer for the, is it for the spacecraft, I believe? Yes, NASA is the anchor customer of this spacecraft. The launch pad says go for a hatch closure. Oh, hold on.
You know, NASA retired its space shuttles in 2011. So for 9 years, astronauts could only get to the space station aboard Soyuz rockets until May 2020, when Bob Behnken, Doug Hurley, two NASA astronauts, they flew to the ISS in a SpaceX spacecraft, Crew Dragon.
We were just talking about
that
this.
Capsule is the one that we see ferrying astronauts to and from the U.S. to the International Space Station. So this second dissimilar system, Starliner, it's really important, right, Mike, that we get this online and in use and part of the Commercial Crew Program.
Absolutely. We made the decision as NASA to have two commercial crew providers when we let the contract in 2014, and since then the commercial crew program has been working really hard to give those capabilities to the country. I talked with Doug Hurley just the other day, right after our launch broadcast on Saturday, and he wishes everybody the best, all the best for this launch, and he can definitely associate with what Butch and Sonny were feeling and how they were getting ready. And I worked very closely with Doug and Bob for their mission.
So they just mentioned the Commercial Crew Program. According to Wikipedia, the Commercial Crew Program is this program where NASA contracts out the building of spacecraft. And it says, the Commercial Crew Program provides commercially operated crew transportation service to and from the International Space Station under contract to NASA. And SpaceX is already providing transportation under this program with its Crew Dragon spacecraft, and NASA wants to add Boeing with the Starliner spacecraft. The spacecraft are owned and operated by the vendor, and crew transportation is provided to NASA as a commercial service. Mort says Space Uber. Let's see. Hey, all right, so I want to say a quick thanks to our mods who are here. You can see we're 1 hour and 45 minutes away from liftoff. Donnie Davio is here this morning moderating. Thank you, Donnie. Beezy is here. Thank you, Beezy, for moderating. I appreciate that. Hey, thanks, by the way, to our new member, the CoolTube 2020 on YouTube. Thank you. Also, we have moderating, Linda Belk and Larry moderate for us on X. Thank you. And hang on a moment. Let me just get this up on the screen here. Over there on Twitch right now, we have moderating Big Ball of Yarn, Good Luck Duck, I Got That Fire, and Papa Bear. Thanks for moderating over there. And we have, hang on one moment here. Oh, they're talking about the weather?
Up and growing just south of the Space Coast, but Launch Weather Officer Melanie Lovin.
They're talking about the weather?
The launch team that she is forecasting that they will all stay far away offshore.
Okay, weather sounds good. Christina Neal is moderating. Kay Lowry Body is moderating. Thanks so much. Any others I might be missing too? Oh, somebody gave Facebook stars too. Ruby Olinger. Thanks for the Facebook stars. Ruby says, please be a safe takeoff.
And that only concerned the cumulus cloud rule, because you can't fly a rocket through a cumulus cloud. Otherwise, it could potentially create its own lightning strike. So
how about that?
Have that rule in place. There's a beautiful shot right there. You can see some of the puffy clouds in this shot, but you know, that looks a little more compressed because that's a distant view, which makes those clouds look like they're more clustered. This is kind of gives you a better shot here. Looks like we're launching into a clear blue sky, and we sure hope that that holds for the rest of the way, and certainly the forecast indicates as such. Want to take a moment now to bring in one of the members of NASA's commercial.
Hey, I want to take some comments from you. When was the last ULA launch? Well, ULA would be both the Crew Dragon spacecraft and this spacecraft. So what was the last launch of those two? I'd have to look that up. I'm not sure. I have to look up when the last launch of both of these was. The last... Sorry. The Crew... When was the last Crew... The next Crew Dragon launch is supposed to be tomorrow. No, that's wrong. I'm sorry. That's incorrect. The SpaceX is doing a launch tomorrow, but it's Starship. Now is Starship part of the commercial crew program? That I don't know. I don't know the specifics on that. Let's see here. Let me look it up. I also don't know I forget when was the last Starliner launch before this one. The last Starliner launch before this one was May 19th, 2022 was the second uncrewed orbital test flight of Starliner. According to Wikipedia, May 19th, 2022 was the last flight of this. And then I'd have to find a list of SpaceX flights. I'm just looking it up. I don't know when the last SpaceX launch to the space station was. That I can't tell you. I don't have an answer with me handy. Sorry about that. Ooh, maybe I can find it here. Crew Dragon flights. I found it on Wikipedia. Crew Dragon flights. The last SpaceX Crew Dragon flight was, it says, yes, on March 4th, 2024, a SpaceX Crew Dragon flight took 4 astronauts to the International Space Station. And that was just, 3 months ago. But that's not this spacecraft.
Down the platform to go into the White Room and to ingress Starliner. So that was very much a pinch me moment.
And there's a look at that crew access arm, which will be stowed at L-11 minutes. We'll be doing that same movement.
LC slick on channel 1. Go ahead. Hatch closure complete.
Right. Hatch closure complete.
There's the great
there you go. They closed the hatch.
There, the hatch being closed. But that crew access arm, you've spoken like a true engineer, right? You've seen something like that.
P2 LC. Go ahead. Start Centaur engine chill down. Roger. Arm control LC. Arm control. Power on crew access arm hydraulic heater as required. Roger.
All right, Centaur engine chill, so another great step towards launch.
Yeah, launch pad. I think we are going to cover the Starship, the SpaceX flight, the SpaceX launch of Starship tomorrow morning. That's my plan, at least. It's my plan.
It's a tough field.
That's early. It's earlier than this.
But you had some advice that you want to give.
Hold on. All right, let me take some comments and questions from you guys as we watch for this. Let's see. Let me see. Ed Weeby says it's not smoke, it's venting excess gases. Blue Pip says Boeing is confirming the hatch is closed. It is going to the International Space Station for about a week. That is where it is going. Oh, thanks so much. Did I thank Baronico? Thanks again, Baronico, if I did. Let's see here. Looking at some of the comments. Oh, you can also write to me on X at Lookner, by the way.
Pressurization per your checklist and configure
to
the
continue
HIU
and get that proposal submitted. So that was incredible, first of all. But you know, when you're asked to participate in something like that in college, a lot of times it doesn't result in anything. I never would have thought we were.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Cool stuff. Brittany White, launch site integrator with
Copy.
commercial crew program. Really appreciate your time here, and we're really moving well through the milestones. In fact, way ahead of time, which is, I guess, a function of when you've done something for the third time. You get really quick at it.
Yeah.
Right?
Let me find, somebody said, how long does it take to get to the space station after launch? You know, I want to say, call me crazy, I thought I read it took about 24 hours to get there. Now, I might be wrong about this. Let me see if I can find that for you. I was reading something about it last night. Let's see here. I'm checking this up. Mission overview. Yes, according to NASA, it is an approximately 24-hour journey to the space station. During the flight, the spacecraft and crew will perform several test objectives, supporting the certification ahead of regular rotation missions for the Starliner. So it takes about 24 hours to get to the International Space Station, according to NASA. Then it docks with it. And then they're going to stay there for about a week.
Is closed again, pressurizing the entire capsule for a leak check, Mike.
Yes, so we practiced this a few years ago for the first time, and when we did it, it actually made some loud noises inside the cabin as the pressure was increasing and then decreasing. So that now we made a call to the crew saying, "Hey, you're going to hear some things, and we're ready to do it." We have a voice-activated intercom system. We call it a Vox, right? So we turn up our Vox dials so that loud noises don't get transmitted and amplified in our microphones. And in order to do this, Butch also had to take a cap off of a valve that's inside the spacecraft. We do have ways to depressurize the spacecraft from inside, so we usually keep them capped, so it keeps things extra safe. And Butch had to take the cap off for when we depressurize.
And pressurizing.
The astronauts are Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams. NASA also says NASA's commercial crew program is working with the American aerospace industry to launch astronauts on American rockets and spacecraft from American soil to the International Space Station. And then in theory, if this flight goes successfully, NASA says following a landing and successful recovery, NASA will complete work to certify the spacecraft as an operational crew system for long-duration rotation missions to the space station, beginning with NASA's Boeing Starliner 1, expected to launch in 2025.
Just a few days ago, actually, but more than half of what's going up is Boeing cargo, like CFT patches, mission coins, silver Snoopy pens, American flags, and a hard drive, which we mentioned earlier. It has about 3,500 pieces of artwork from children across the world. We're also taking tools, emergency life support equipment, and then that late ad at NASA's request just a few days ago, our teams packed a new pump for the space station's urine processing assembly. That is a part of the water recovery system there on the ISS. It is about 150 pounds. It's a pump, and it is replacing 2 non-essential cargo bags inside Starliner. It is all methodically packed weeks in advance, besides that one late cargo. And about 25 bags are for Boeing, 10 bags now for NASA. And those NASA bags are carrying things like food, clothes, exercise gear, medical supplies, and anything the crew wanted to bring with them. On the way back, Starliner will bring about 750 pounds of cargo, so just a little bit less, and that includes one empty NORS tank. That's a nitrogen oxygen recharge system, and that will be refilled for future missions. So, Dylan, we are focused on the crew, on the pad team, on what's been going on with the hatch closure and the pressurization testing, but there's been a lot going on in the background as well on the rocket side.
Yeah, that's right, Lauren. So as we've wrapped up the crew ingress process, we're starting to hear a little bit more traffic now back from the launch vehicle team. A few moments ago, we heard about the Centaur engine chill down. So the Centaur engines are fueled by cryogenic propellants, which are very, very cold. So this process takes about an hour, and it brings those engine temperatures down so that we don't cold shock them when they're introduced to those cold propellants. So that process has been started. The vehicle itself remains in propellant topping mode as the blue team is continuing their work up on the tower. We heard about the beginning to warm up the hydraulic system for the crew access arm. One of the big differences in today's countdown as compared to our countdown for our traditional uncrewed missions, our payloads that don't talk back, as I say, is the length of the built-in hold. So we've spent the duration of this broadcast in our 4-hour built-in hold. Typically, our built-in holds are 15 or 30 minutes, depending on the length of the launch window. But for today, it's been lengthened to 4 hours to allow loading of the crew and closing out Starliner for flight. With today's instantaneous launch window for the International Space Station, launch vehicle and Starliner operations have to be precisely choreographed to occur on time. So far, things are looking great. The team's working no issues.
All right, Dylan, we are about 1 hour and 31 minutes away from launch. We'll send it back over to Megan at the host desk.
Let's talk a little bit more about that urine processor because, Mike, you actually helped install one.
Not just one, but the first one. When Chris Ferguson and his team came up on STS-126, I was commander of the space station, and Don Pettit and I got to install the urine processor. It's a really neat kind of, I know it has a funny name, a UPA, right? UPA, right? So, but the urine processor is in essence a pump, and it takes our waste products, our number one, our P, and helps take all the water out of it. Our water processing assembly aboard the International Space Station, we've gotten to be really good at it. We can get over 97% of our water recycled, and each time we send a liter of water aboard up to space station, it's like $5,000. So being able to recycle water is not just good for space station, but for when we go to Moon and Mars. So this urine processor, when it's not working, and a space station program manager said so at the most recent press conference, we've got to get it up there. Other than that, we have these large bags full of urine that need to be processed, and it'll start stacking up on us because we don't want to throw it away. We need to definitely process it. So having Starliner, an hour and a half to go. Having Starliner there to be able to take up the UPA really helps the space station program a lot.
Interesting.
This is that dual redundancy of having rockets go up to the space station on a regular basis.
And the recycling of the urine into water is really impressive. Like the rate is 90-something% that they can...
Over 97%.
Yes. It's impressive.
That's a great technology for Earth, Moon, and Mars.
Now, both Butch and Sunny are bringing some special items of their own with them for this very important.
All right, so we got an hour and 29 minutes. Hey, it's on schedule so far, guys. Let's hope it happens this time. We'll be here watching it. Let's see here. You can. I'm going to check out comments in the chat. You can write to me on X at Lookner. Anna says, it's just extraordinary space missions. They are so brave. Oops.
Cabin pressurization now.
Cabin pressurization. They're doing cabin pressurization, which you just heard.
And a thumbs up from the crew. Let the pressure increase. But it's really it's really cool. I know that from the universities that I went to, every time I wore their shirt, just to kind of represent like any other alum should, it really inspired the undergrads and the grad students to say, hey, if that schmuck could be an astronaut, so could I. There's hope. There's hope for us all. And it's so those are kind of things that make a difference to us. And hopefully make difference to other people too. It's inspiring to see your school represented in space.
Yeah, so personal effects and also those opportunities that inspire, because that's really a big part of being an astronaut. You know, you've said that before, that a big part of your job is also to inspire that next generation.
Some of you may have seen this. Elon Musk actually posted on his X account 26 minutes ago. He posted a link to the live stream of the Starliner launch, and he said, wishing them the best of luck. Elon Musk's SpaceX makes the currently the only crew capsule taking Americans to and from the space station, launching from America, the SpaceX Crew Dragon. But this would be the second spacecraft to take people from America to the space station, and this is the Boeing Starliner. Well, I can't play the music, so we'll turn the music off. We'll turn that music down. D-Rex says this is unbelievable. There's all these new spacecraft flying the last few years. You know, you have the Blue Origin doing its what is it, Virgin? Is it Virgin Space or something like that? Virgin Galactic doing space tourism. You have the space tourism flights. You have SpaceX building spacecraft, Boeing Starliner, Blue Origin, I believe, is working on a spacecraft to take astronauts up, I think, to the moon. So all of these different spacecraft, let's hope everything continues to go well with them. One hour, 25 minutes. Now, how long, when they start the broadcast, I need to look this up. How much of it are we going to be able to see? I don't know how long the broadcast lasts. Let me see if I can find that out for you. So, yes. Launch coverage will end, says NASA, shortly after Starliner orbital insertion. Oh, that's on NASA Plus. And then NASA Television will provide continuous coverage leading up to docking and through the hatch opening and welcome. So NASA, I don't know if we're watching NASA Plus or National Television, which feed this is. But NASA's going to be covering it in some form for like 24 hours, up to the point where they dock with the space station and they open the hatch. And then about an hour and a half after launch, so launch is 10:52 p.m. At 12:30 p.m., there's supposed to be a post-launch news conference, which I assume we'll cover, because we should be on the air still then. I think. And then NASA will have various coverage, I guess. tomorrow as well. Hey, thanks to Debbie James for thanks Debbie James for the gift membership. Thanks, Debbie. You know, also what I'll have, I think, shortly. Do I have it yet? Oh, hold on. I think I have it. Oh, good. I can look what I got. Guys, this is good. Good news. I got some good news here. I got something I can show you. Hang on a sec, guys. Let me just get this on the screen for you. Give me one moment. I can show you guys when they're doing this stuff on this one broadcast. I have a different feed I can show you. So look at this. Look at this here. So I'll go here. Where is it here? Oh, hold on. I have to just shrink this a little bit here. Can I do this here? Is this going to work for me? Yes. There. Okay, good. So it's the same feed, but when one of the feeds cuts away, I can show this feed. But at the same time, that's good. What I'm going to do is, now if I do this, hold on. There we go. Okay.
This being the crewed flight test, they'll have a number of test or flight test objectives to work through, putting the Starliner systems through its paces to prove them out before operational flights begin. The first of those will come after Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams reach orbit today, when they'll be doing some manual piloting checkouts while they're still well away from the space station. They'll be flying some attitude maneuvers, changing Starliner's orientation using only visual cues to start with, and then using Starliner's attitude direction indicator, which will be used for all the other planned attitude maneuvers. They'll also point the spacecraft's tail to the sun to demonstrate that it can use solar arrays to recharge its batteries.
And once they arrive near station, they'll take over with manual control again to demonstrate their ability to station for 5 minutes at the opening of the approach corridor. And this corridor reaches out to a little under 250 meters away from the forward docking port on the ISS Harmony node, or as you may hear as we listen into the flight loops later, node 2 forward. Now this maneuver should be pretty familiar to both Butch and Sonny. It's very similar to flight ops they performed while in the Navy, things like lining up an aircraft with a
Okay, so we got our video. We got our video set here. That's good. Good. Oh, you know, the one other thing I have to do is, where is... Okay, I think we're good to go here.
aircraft, and the rotational hand controller, which looks and operates almost identically to a joystick in an aircraft.
Our viewer Smokenstein says, will it happen? You know, ultimately we don't know if it's launching until it actually launches, because it can up until the moment it launches, they can call it off. They can put a hold on it.
As I was saying, another now 1 hour and 19 minutes until today's 10:52 a.m. Eastern launch. Flight Director Mike Lammers has been keeping close eye on the activities in Florida as the crew got into their seats and went through their suit checks. Also, as they closed the hatch and started pressurizing Starliner. In about an hour, Lammers is going to be polling the team here in Houston for goes or no-goes, hoping to get thumbs up across the board for today's launch. He'll be speaking for his team when he gives his final go, no-go to the launch conductor about 7 minutes before launch.
The International Space Station also has to be go to welcome Starliner tomorrow. So let's go back to the Space Station Flight Control Room and NASA's Rob Navius for an update. Rob?
Thanks, Jim. And the International Space Station Flight Control Team, led at this hour by Flight Director Allison Bollinger, has in fact polled her team, and the ISS is go for launch.
Hey, that's good.
During the week or so that Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams.
So this spacecraft is going to the International Space Station for around a week. Nigel Fortune, our viewer, thinks it's 50-50 on whether it launches today. Madam Misfit says, I was disappointed when they called off the last one last Saturday. Let's hope it goes today. Yes, as All Right Now says, today's astronauts are Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore, who I think have both, one of our viewers was saying this too, have both flown to the space station before. I'm going to sneeze in a second. I think. Excuse me. Let me just mention crew. Yes, according to the New York Times article that I'm looking at right now, Butch Wilmore has spent 167 days in space. And Suni Williams has spent 322 days in space. She was on the International Space Station twice. And Wilmore was the pilot of a space shuttle mission in 2009, and then also went to the International Space Station for 5.5 months.
There are a lot of procedures that have to be followed, but for the astronauts, they'll have some critical action steps to safe the vehicle. So thinking about anything to do with the boosters, the propulsion system, maybe the pyrotechnics. And so they will take those critical actions to safe the vehicle. You want to make sure it's perfectly safe. And then it's a process of getting out of the vehicle and going back to crew quarters. If there's a longer delay, they might go back to Houston, but usually they'll stay in quarantine. And then it's back to hitting the simulators again.
And let's talk, you also have obviously firsthand experience on the effects of spaceflight on the human body. Can you discuss with us the human research experiments that Butch and Suni will take part in during their mission?
Yeah, this human research program is critically important. There are so few people overall that have been to space that every single one counts. So when Butch and Suni go up to the space station, they'll join our astronauts up there right now, Tracy, Mike, Matt, and Jeanette, and they will join in some of the same medical experiments so that we can have a larger pool of data. But in addition to that, we'll be watching very closely a couple of things. This is a new trajectory for a vehicle. It's going to be the first question I'm going to want to ask. How did it feel? What was the ride like? And then, of course, they've got plenty of experience getting out of the vehicle before launch, but it'll be a different thing after flying in space. And we're going to want to look at that closely.
Absolutely.
1 hour in 15 minutes. We are getting closer. 1 hour in 15 minutes, guys. Our viewer Sandy Doggo says this will be pretty cool. Brett Workman thinks if they don't lift off today, it would look pretty bad. Originally, the first Boeing Starliner manned test flight was supposed to be in 2017. The project has been significantly delayed.
It's going to allow us to really understand
There's a shot of it right there. No, they're staying for a week and then they're coming back. They're not switching. It's not a rotation mission. The two astronauts on the craft will be staying there for a week and then coming back. The rocket is the Atlas V rocket. ULA, which makes the rocket, is a joint venture of Boeing and Lockheed Martin. That's why it says ULA on it. And my understanding is that there would not be any more manned test flights if this goes well. That's my understanding. I'll try to confirm that for you. And that after this, if this test flight goes well, they would just eventually certify the craft as good to go once they do some other stuff. Let's see here. Yes, I mean, I'm looking, Wikipedia has a list of flights, and the next scheduled flight after this one of this spacecraft would be in early 2025, first operational flight of Boeing Starliner. There have been 3 tests of this. There was a pad abort test, and then there were 2 uncrewed orbital test flights of this spacecraft in 2019 and 2022. And this would be the first crewed test. This will be the first and only crewed test flight, presumably. Oh, thanks, by the way, to yes, thanks again to Ruby Olinger for the Facebook stars, and Soma Amar. Thanks so much, Soma Amar, for the Facebook stars.
That I can one day.
Oh, this is not, Xylee says, is this a reusable rocket like the Falcon 9? This is not a reusable rocket. The rocket that, the test flight tomorrow of SpaceX Starship, that has a reusable rocket and a reusable crew capsule. And tomorrow's test flight of Starship in the morning is supposed to be one in which they recover the rocket and they recover the space capsule. So I think we'll be covering that tomorrow morning. It's early. It's earlier than this. I want to say it's like 8 a.m. or something. I got to look it up. But no, this rocket is not a reusable rocket.
Lost to space. It'll be a great.
Sorry, I got to get that. No music. I can't have the music playing. One hour and 11 minutes, guys. 1 hour and 11 minutes. They are in Florida. The astronauts are, so the astronauts are not United Launch Alliance. United Launch Alliance makes the rocket. Boeing operates the spacecraft, and the astronauts are with NASA. Because NASA basically hires Boeing to operate the craft, operate the launch, operate the spacecraft and the rocket. But the NASA is not. NASA is supplying the astronauts. That's my understanding. Yeah, the companies operate the spacecraft.
The best, they do their best every day, and that's the best way to become an astronaut.
And I think we can squeeze in another one. This is Susie McGowan on Facebook asking if for whatever reason either Butch or Sonny couldn't fly on Starliner today, would the mission be scrubbed, or is there a backup team member just in case?
Hi, Susie. I resemble that remark.
Verify range ready for FTS open loop test. Verified.
So they're
FTS LC.
This is FTS.
Start final open loop FTS test.
Roger.
They're doing a kind of a safe version of the flight termination system test to make sure they're ready for launch. So Susie, yes, I as a backup to Butch and Sonny was able to, we could have turned the around us if they got sick, but not on the day of launch. Certainly not today. We have an instantaneous launch window. We don't have very much margin for someone else to get into their spacesuit and go. But if unfortunately somebody were to not do well and we need to switch out crew members, we have preserved that capability so that the mission can go on. It's not about an individual, but it's about the mission that's important to NASA.
All right. Remember, it's super easy to submit questions for this broadcast. Just go to NASA's YouTube, Facebook, X, or Twitch pages and add your question with hashtag AskNASA.
We want to introduce you to the man with the final go or no-go here today. He's a familiar face to those who have been following human spaceflight over the years. That's Leroy Kane, live inside of the ASOC. He's Boeing's Commercial Crew Deputy Program Manager, and he serves as Starliner's Mission Director today. Previously, Leroy served as NASA's Space Shuttle Flight Director and then as Space Shuttle Deputy Program Manager. He's been involved with more than 100 shuttle missions. Our team asked him how today's flight compares and how his experience supporting so many astronauts from the ground influences every decision he makes.
Starliner Houston, we got a good leak.
The flight of Starliner.
Need to turn off the music. Let's see here. Chris Stiff says ULA, United Lost Alliance, is Boeing and Lockheed Martin. Yes. Hey, thanks Rob Van Roy for the gift membership. I appreciate it, Rob Van Roy. 1 hour and 7 minutes and 49 seconds, guys. We came on a little earlier today. Figured we'd come on a little earlier, get a little more lead up to what is going on. Bringing you live coverage, the Boeing Starliner, the first and presumably only, if it goes well, manned test flight of this cruise spacecraft. The Starliner is the spacecraft that sits on top of the Atlas V rocket. This is the final Starliner test flight, in theory. NASA says as the final test flight for Starliner, NASA's Boeing crew flight test will validate the transportation system, including the launch pad rocket spacecraft in-orbit operational capabilities, and return to Earth with astronauts aboard. They will stay about 1 week on the International Space Station. The Starliner and crew will land under parachutes and an airbag-assisted landing in the western United States. Hey, thanks so much to Snug with Pug from Australia. That's so nice of you, Snug with Pug. Thank you. And also the one and only. Really appreciate that, the one and only. Thank you so much. Very much appreciate it.
Mike Fink, and that's Boeing's D. Russell.
Good morning.
Now, we are here to watch NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sunny Williams make history as the first people to fly aboard Boeing's Starliner capsule. And Mike, liftoff of the United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket is slated for 10:52 and 15 seconds a.m. Eastern Time. Where are we in the countdown? We're looking really great in this countdown.
Yes, so far so good. The rocket is in great shape, and the capsule on top, the spacecraft, Starliner, Calypso, they closed the hatch about 10 or 15 minutes ago and are just finishing up on the leak checks, saying that the hatch is definitely holding air, and we're ready for the pad team to say goodbye and head off the launch tower. 1 hour and 5 minutes to go.
Now, CFT is the last test before NASA can certify Starliner for regular missions to the International Space Station.
So, I guess soon they're going to pull that crew. They're going to the people right at the top there. There's that arm that extends out so that the astronauts can get in and get out of the craft, and the crew that's up there on that arm that attaches to, or that goes up to the spacecraft. That crew will get out of there soon, and eventually that arm will pull back. Last time we were watching, when they scrubbed the launch right before the, a few minutes before the launch, they had to move the arm back out there so they could get the crew back. Yeah, the arm is up at the top there. If you can see my pointer here. Yeah, the arm is up here, is here. That's what I'm talking about. Right there. That's where they enter, up here. Let's see here. Hey, thanks so much to all of our moderators who are here as we wait for this launch. BZ, thank you so much. Rosie Freckle, really appreciate all of our moderators. Richard Williams is here from the UK. Hey, thanks, Richard, for moderating. Donnie Davio is here moderating. Thank you. JE says the crew access arm. Linda Belk and Larry moderate for us on X. Over there on Twitch, Big Ball of Yarn. David Green, Good Luck Duck here, say I got that fire. Sarah and Papa Bear. Over there on Facebook, Kay Lowry Body, Christina Neal, Margaret Riley, all moderating there. Thank you. Hour and 3 minutes. 1 hour and 3 minutes, guys. We are getting closer. Oliver Hernandez, our member, thanks Oliver, says, how many unmanned flights has the Starliner had? It's had 3, basically 2, because it had one test, which was a test of the ability. It was like a pad abort test. That was the first one. And then it had 2. Yeah, the pad abort test was the first test. And that was a test of whether the Starliner capsule could safely pull the crew away from a pad in the event of an emergency prior to liftoff. So in an emergency, the crew capsule on the top can rocket off away from the rest of the stuff, away from the rocket, if it has to. It has abort motors that can separate the capsule from the rest. So that was the crew, that was the first test. And then the next 2 tests were uncrewed orbital test flights in 2019 and 2022. Those were the 3 previous tests. And this is the first and only intended manned flight, test flight.
Unintentionally.
And there are more than 60 seals, right, in the crew module, 6 valves to check if they're in the closed position. And bottom line, this check is to make sure that everything is sealed so that the Starliner is properly pressurized on the ride up.
Yes, we don't need the atmosphere to leak out. If it does, we have spacesuits, but it's very good to double check everything, and we expected the hatch leak check to proceed just fine, and it did.
And there was a particular PSI, right?
1 hour and 1 minute.
A particular PSI that the team wanted to see being held within the cabin.
Yes, so we start out at atmospheric pressure, and we use
Go ahead.
Pounds per square inch as our measurement, so that's PSI. So we normally start at something, whatever it is here today in Florida, like 14.6 or 14.7 PSI. We add 2 extra PSI, so they were holding at 16.9 pounds per square inch, and that held throughout the 10 minutes, and that's an overpressure, so it would have leaked out if we had a leak path, and it turns out we didn't, so leak check good.
All right. And we have teams in both Florida and Houston.
Hey, thanks to Lori Hawkins for the Facebook stars, and thanks so much to John Donahue from New Hampshire. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Guys, 1 hour, just about 1 hour left. Let's see here. 1 hour right now until the liftoff.
ULA's rocket headquarters over here on the Cape side. Dylan and I are in a great location to be monitoring all of the operations that are going on around us. We have the whole launch control team down here behind us, and you might be able to see us there in the middle in the glass.
Alarm at a bad time, we're going to recommend that line item 390 be disabled.
Roger, copy line item 390.
Correct.
LC concurs. LD?
LD concurs.
We are getting closer.
Roger.
CRT says excited.
RLM? LC?
Cogito says very excited.
Roger, please disable line item 390.
Active.
All right, another part of our job is to wear headsets and listen to...
Thanks to Shaft for the gift memberships, too. I appreciate that, Shaft.
Just to keep track of everything going on today. We did just get an update that the helium leak on Starliner remains good. We have confirmation it is still acceptable for flight, looking about like it did on Saturday. So that's great news. And Dylan, Atlas has been really all over the solar system, but preps for today's launch are just a little bit different.
Go ahead.
Line item 390 has been disabled.
Roger.
Well, that's right, Lauren. So we're using our...
You know, they mentioned a helium leak, and just to go back, this flight was supposed to happen on May 6th, and then on May 6th, there was a problem. Hang on one second here. There was a problem with an oxygen valve, says Wikipedia, but I think they found a helium leak too. I got to go back and look at that. Hang on a moment. It was planned for May 6th originally. That was attempt 1. Yes, here. So this flight was originally scheduled for liftoff on May 7th, but was scrubbed about 2 hours before liftoff due to an oxygen valve problem on the Atlas V rocket. After the initial scrub, the launch was repeatedly delayed due to a helium leak in the Starliner service module. That's according to Wikipedia.
The Space Center and the Starliner crew. Once all that is done, we'll be retracting that big crew access arm. That'll be one of the big visual cues on the launch pad that lets us know that we're getting closer to launch. And then you'll start to hear us get into our final polling for launch.
All right, Megan, we are now just under an hour to launch, so
57 minutes
back here in just a little bit. Actually, we're going to go over to NASA's Daryl Nell at Hangar AE. Daryl. 57
minutes. Yeah, so they mentioned that it sounds like there's still some sort of helium leak, but it's fine. You know, they know about it, and I guess it's not any kind of thing they have to worry about or within acceptable limits or whatever. Wow, we are getting close here. Is it going to take off today, guys? Man, it'd be a real letdown if it didn't take off today again, like at the last minute. Because last time it was 3 minutes and 50 seconds before liftoff. Claudia Dannenberg Phillips says, this is exciting. Emily says, I am nervous for them because I pray that it works this time. Yes, Wickedest Witch today is another instantaneous launch window. They need to launch at the designated launch time. That is so because they are rendezvousing with the International Space Station. So to get it where they want it to go, they need to launch at a exact time. So there's no like, oh, we have to delay it for 5 minutes. If it doesn't go off, my understanding is if it doesn't go off at 10:52, then it's not going today. Then there's another launch window tomorrow. Oh, I had read there was a report. I forget who it was. I posted this on my X account, but I think it was a space reporter who had reported that if it didn't launch by tomorrow, then there would be a more significant delay because it can only kind of be, they would have to like replace some stuff. They can only keep it ready to launch for so long on short notice before doing like bigger maintenance work of whatever kind. So they can't indefinitely keep it ready to launch on short notice. So what the reporter was saying was something to the effect of if it didn't launch by tomorrow, then there was going to have to be a bit of a bigger delay so they could do whatever maintenance stuff they needed to do to get it ready to launch again. That's what the reporter had said. And again, I posted it. It's on my X account somewhere like a few days ago. Maybe I can find the post for you. But that was interesting. Hang on, I'm going to see if I can find it here. Yes, Marcia Smith with Space Policy Online had said that if they don't launch by the window tomorrow, the rocket and spacecraft need to get some life-limited items like batteries replaced, so it'll be a while. That was interesting. That was from Marcia Smith.
Before his selection to NASA, Wilmore was on exchange to the Air Force as a flight test instructor at the Air Force Test Pilot School at Edwards Air Force Base in California. Butch is a veteran of 2 space flights as pilot on Space Shuttle Atlantis in 2009, and then 5 years later he served as flight engineer for Expedition 41. So far, Wilmore has spent 178 days in space and performed 4 spacewalks, so this flight will be his 3rd mission to the ISS.
And Sunny Williams, CFT's pilot and a retired U.S. Navy captain. NASA selected her as an astronaut in 1998, just 2 years before Butch. This will also be Sunny's 3rd mission to space, making her the first woman on a test flight of an orbital spacecraft. Her first trip to the ISS launched in 2006. She served as flight engineer for Expeditions 14-15. She then returned to the orbiting lab in 2012 and was commander of Expedition 33. Sunny has more than 50 hours of spacewalk time, the 2nd most cumulative time by a female astronaut.
Our viewer of the launch pad says the batteries for the flight transmission system have limited life and are getting close to the end of it. If they don't launch today, tomorrow, it will take 10 days to roll back, replace, and roll out. That's what our viewer of the launch pad says. Thanks for writing in the launch pad.
Working out, hiking, and camping, as well as working on cars.
Yeah, one of our viewers said, I hope we don't have breaking news during this today. Let's hope this all goes well and normally and everything. Hey, thanks so much to Vicky, Dave, and Comet, who says it's nice to watch. They say it's nice to watch news that isn't controversial. Yeah, exactly. Hopefully no controversy today. Hopefully just a good a test flight that lifts off and is successful and safe. Also, the launch pad thinks, our viewer of the launch pad thinks if they don't launch the next few weeks, they might have to wait till August because of other International Space Station operations that are already scheduled. I don't know that for sure. That's what our viewer of the launch pad says. Thanks for writing in.
Docket and test it all out.
Oh, I gotta turn off the music. Gotta turn off the music. No music. Can't have the music. Let me see if I have any updates. But everything, there's been, since we've been on the air and since this morning, I'm not aware of any kind of hiccups. I have not aware of any hiccups so far today in this launch process. Jeff Faust, who is with Space News, says the weather is 90% go for launch. Marina Corin, who is with the Atlantic, she points out that this spacecraft has been to the International Space Station unmanned. The Starliner, it has had 2 unmanned orbital test flights. Yes, in the 2022, in the previous test flight, which was in 2022, it actually did dock with the space station, but it was an unmanned flight. But that's a good point, that in the previous test flight in 2022, the spacecraft, which sits on top of the rocket there, docked with the space station.
To live on.
Oh, too much music. Stephen Roberts is here. Thanks so much for your support of the channel, Stephen Roberts. I really appreciate it. Paul Anderson is modding too over there on Facebook. Thank you. Apologies again for the whole Facebook subscriber fiasco. The Facebook subscriber badges have disappeared. I've been talking to Facebook about it, guys. You don't even believe what the customer support there is like. It's amazing. You message them about something, and then they'll message you back about something completely different that has nothing to do with what you messaged them about. I actually had a phone call with Facebook support. Nothing happened after. And then when I write to them about it now, it's like the phone call never happened, and they have no idea what I'm talking about. It's really unbelievable over there. So we still are missing the subscriber badges on Facebook, in addition to other issues with the subscriptions. It's just ridiculous. I'm trying my best, but it's unbelievable over there. You literally write them a message, and then they write back suggesting something, and it just has nothing to do with what you write them. And this happens repeatedly. And you start to think like, is this what they're in? Are they intentionally doing this? It's unbelievable. But I'm trying my best to get that fixed. I don't know what happened. They just messed up the whole subscribers thing over there. Anyways, hopefully we can get it fixed soon. It's very frustrating. Thanks to our Twitch subscribers too. Really appreciated people like Shaggy and Wall Street and Half Price Buddha, Spicy Curry, Jackson 22, all of our subscribers there. Thank you. Sarah, I appreciate it.
That has power supplies. It was one of the 2 power supplies that are also redundant, and so the flaw was really that power supply going down and not switching to the backup supply built into the chassis. So we removed it, we replaced it, we put the modules right back in it. The chassis we're using we know works because it's the same chassis we used to launch Vulcan on Cert 1. Everything has checked out and been retested, and now we're good to go.
That's
He's
great
talking
to
about
hear,
the computer
and it is
issue.
a beautiful day right now. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful launch. What's the trajectory like for this launch? I mean, who along the U.S. will be able to see it?
Yeah, this is a very unique trajectory because it's flat and long for crew safety. And so it'll head out from here, it'll go north and a little bit to the east, and so all along the southern coast of the United States you have a pretty good chance of seeing it. And what that trajectory allows us to do is to have no blackout areas where the crew would be unable to abort the flight, God forbid, in the event of an anomaly. And it delivers them just short of being orbital, so if there were any issues with the capsule's propulsion system, they get a free return safely to the surface of the Earth. So very, very unique for us. We've never flown, apart from the test flights of this capsule, a trajectory that is suborbital before.
Wow, and talking about uniqueness, is there anything new or different on this Atlas V rocket for this crewed launch compared to other uncrewed Atlas V launches?
Yes, there are. There's a handful of things, and they are all safety related. So the most obvious thing is there's no payload fairing, because if there were to be an abort where we want the capsule to fly the crew safely away, the fairing would be in the way, so we fly without it. We also have an emergency detection system, which is like a very high-speed computer that is plugged into all the systems on Atlas and monitoring its health, so that if an anomaly started happening faster than any human could possibly do it, this computer would detect it and command the separation of the capsule. And of course, on Centaur, we have 2 RL-10s instead of 1 rocket engine for more thrust, because of that long flat trajectory. The last thing we do is actually kind of subtle and maybe a little bit trivial for most people, but we anodize the first stage of the booster to protect it from a thing called stress corrosion cracking.
Over to you.
And as we check out some pad team members there getting ready to leave the...
I was just saying, is that the crew getting ready to leave the hatch area?
On launch, here's NASA's Brandy Dean and Boeing's Jim May.
That's what I was saying. Sorry, I was muted.
Thanks so much, Megan. Welcome back to Mission Control Houston at NASA's Johnson Space Center. We are now 44 minutes away from launch and everything continuing to go pretty smoothly.
Nice.
Team here is under leadership again of Flight Director Mike Lammers today. Once Starliner gets off the pad, Jim and I will be with you through the ascent, giving you the play-by-play as Starliner makes its way into orbit and expanding on the calls that you'll hear from Capcom Joshua Kutrick, making to Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams.
There are a number of major milestones you'll want to keep an eye out for during Starliner's climb to orbit. The first you'll hear from Starliner's crew is roll program coming from Commander Wilmore, indicating that Starliner is rolling into the planned orientation for ascent and orbit ops. Then about 45 seconds into flight, the crew and Starliner will reach what's called max Q, which is the maximum dynamic pressure that they will experience during ascent, and that happens just before they reach Mach 1.
A minute and 35 seconds into flight, the solid rocket boosters that give Starliner its first major push into orbit will have been used up. Starliner will then hold on to them for just a little more than a minute after that, and then jettison the boosters before second stage takes over and gets Starliner the rest of the way to orbit.
Starliner will actually reach orbit about 11 minutes and 58 seconds into flight, at which point the Centaur's main engines will cut off. Starliner and its crew hold on to that stage for a couple of minutes, and then separate from it at around 14 minutes 58 seconds into flight. From there, Butch and Sunny will be free-flying Starliner on their own.
During ascent, you'll hear Kutrick mentioning a number of abort-related milestones as Starliner moves past them. Starliner can safely abort all the way up to orbit, as you just heard in that interview we saw from Florida. That includes the East Coast, off the coast of Newfoundland, and off the coast of Ireland. Beyond that, it would just be able to safely abort to orbit, and of course, we're hoping not to need any of those options.
And the last major milestone before crew begins what we call orbit ops is the orbital insertion, or OI burn, which will move Starliner into slightly elliptical orbit as opposed to the more slightly suborbital trajectory that it starts off in after separating from the Centaur. From there, Starliner will be on its way to the International Space Station.
And speaking of the space station, let's check in with Rob Navy.
So, I was just thinking there. So it takes about 24 hours before they dock with the space station. That's a pretty small capsule. I mean, the capsule is 15 feet in diameter. So you gotta be cool with being in this small area, right? I mean, I think if you ever taken like a long plane flight, I once took a plane flight that was like 14 hours, and you get kind of antsy being on the plane, but you can walk around the plane. But they're going to be in that capsule for about 24 hours before being able to get off and go into the International Space Station. So that's got to be something they are okay with. I'm sure they are. They're astronauts, so they've gone all kind of training and everything. But yeah, it's not a big capsule. J.E. says they can stretch and float around. I don't know at what point, how much can they move around in that capsule, and when? I don't know how that works. Maybe they'll be able to get out of their seatbelts in the next 24 hours sometime. I haven't. Some of you probably know this. I'm not aware of it, so I don't want to start proclaiming things that I don't know. But I do know it takes about 24 hours to dock with to get to the International Space Station. Yeah, so I actually think somebody said I think it fits 5. I think it can fit can it fit 7? The Starliner. Let me look up what the max capacity is. Oh, a crew capacity is up to 7 in theory. But if it's going to the International Space Station, the capacity is 4 crew and 100 kilograms of cargo, according to Wikipedia. One and only says my claustrophobia could either. Yeah, you'd have to just be okay with being in that limited space for a while. It is about 16.5 feet long and 15 feet in diameter.
Important just in general that we have multiple spacecraft available to send humans to space?
We need that access. So right now we have one provider giving us that access to space station. This will give us a second provider, which means if we have a problem with either, we have ways to get our crew.
Yeah, what they're talking about is from 2011 to 2020, there was no way for people to get from America to the International Space Station other than using a Russian rocket. Then in 2020, SpaceX Crew Dragon started being able to provide rides to the space station. NASA would hire them to do that. But NASA really wants to have a second spacecraft available in case there's a problem with one of the two. So this would be the second spacecraft that NASA could use to take astronauts to the International Space Station. This would be the second one.
At NASA, and the missions that we have remaining this year, I'll just highlight a couple of them. Europa Clipper, which will be an incredible mission for us to watch in its journey and understanding even more about the solar system. NISAR, which will help continue our learning of Earth. And then we have X-59, that first A in NASA, right, the aeronautics, which will go through its first flight this year. We're about to do an engine run-up on that aircraft. And of course, heading towards Artemis 2 next year. The crews in Washington this week planted a moon tree just yesterday with our deputy administrator, and that gets us on our path back to the moon.
Absolutely, and we cannot wait for all of those missions. Jim, thank you so much for joining us here today. Megan D. Mike, back over to you.
Thank you both. And we are now...
One of our viewers wrote it and said, John Turpin said, what is the maximum speed the craft will reach towards the International Space Station? Now, I just Googled it, and Google said 17,500 miles an hour. Now, remember, when it's in orbit, there's much less resistance, air resistance, correct? Am I correct about this? So that might sound like crazy fast. But that is what Google says. Google says 17,500 miles an hour. Yes, Wikipedia says max speed 17,500 miles an hour, I believe. I thought it said this. Well, Google definitely says it. Maybe Wikipedia doesn't say it. Hang on.
is discarded to expose Starliner's airbags. The original test pilot you see on the bottom center of your screen, Rosie the Rocketeer, collecting data of what astronauts might experience during landing. Starliner is the first and only American orbital crew capsule to land on land. This allows for quicker access to crew and cargo.
Yeah, so one of our viewers said that's the speed of the International Space Station, and it is going to dock with the International Space Station. Buck Tasty says that's how fast objects travel in orbit. Well, does it depend on how high the orbit is? Hang on, we'll look this up. Yeah, there's different. Wikipedia has an article about different orbits at different altitudes above the Earth's surface at different speeds. I believe this is going to be low Earth orbit. Anyways, I'm not going to get on to this right now because this is not my field. But according to Google, the International Space Station max speed is 17,400 miles an hour. So it's probably, I assume it's going to go the same speed as the space station since it's docking with the space station. They need to be going at the same speed, I would think. Yes, Wikipedia says the orbital speed of the International Space Station is 17,100 miles per hour.
And a lot more options if and when we land on land.
All right, so we're coming up on 35 minutes until liftoff.
And here comes a comm check.
Yeah, I want to set the stage now for a series of comm checks.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Op 60, step 10, step 20. Blast danger area is clear.
Roger.
So yeah, we expect to hear repeated communication checks with Capcom in Houston and the crew. This is an opportunity for them to also discuss any anomalies or resolutions to those anomalies. But we've been saying no issues, working no issues. The team
no
today,
issues,
so that's great
guys.
news. And then these comm checks that we'll hear now, we're going to periodically hear them throughout these final 34 minutes. And again, communication is so important, and we want to make sure that those channels are working properly from the crew to everybody else on the ground that's helping to monitor launch. And
when will they come back? They're going to stay at the space station for about a week.
So it's just Butch, Sunny, a Starliner, and Atlas and Centaur all together.
Right. Yep. the first 2 astronauts to fly in
LCO,
Starliner.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. I can also give you step 60. Flight hazard area has been cleared of all personnel accounted for.
Roger.
We are getting close. 33 minutes,
Butch and
guys.
Sunny, the first 2 astronauts to fly in Starliner.
Wow.
Sunny will be the first woman to test an orbital spacecraft.
Hmm.
And the last time people flew to space in an Atlas-class rocket was nearly 61 years ago. CFT is going to be that final test to certify a second commercial spacecraft to ferry astronauts to and from the space station. And this is a cool fact, too. Actually, once in orbit, for the first time in NASA history, the agency will have 3 different crew spacecraft orbiting in space simultaneously. So that's, of course, the International Space Station, the SpaceX Crew Dragon, and then Boeing Starliner spacecraft. What an incredible milestone.
That is an incredible milestone, and NASA's going to break that again, hopefully soon, when we have another spacecraft. We're working here at the Kennedy Space Center to get Artemis and the Orion spacecraft up into space, too. So these are exciting times, and we're building a future where there's even more spacecraft in the future with humans on board going to space. And that's more opportunity for future astronauts.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dee, what do you think about that again, Boeing?
So the SpaceX Crew Dragon craft, which is currently the only certified craft to bring take people from America to the space station. The Crew Dragon is actually right now docked to the International Space Station. The Crew Dragon flight that's docked to the International Space Station took off on March 4th, and it's currently docked, and it's supposed to come back in late 2024. So that's why she said the Crew Dragon is in orbit, because it's currently docked to the International Space Station. So when this Boeing Starliner gets up to the International Space Station, both the Boeing Starliner and the SpaceX Crew Dragon spacecrafts will be docked to the International Space Station. Hey, thanks so much to Walter Beasley. Yes, I agree with you, Walter, about Facebook support. I agree with you there. It's just amazing. In a bad way. Really, really terrible. Unfortunately. Thank you, Walter Beasley.
S-134,
Oh,
and that
wow.
was in 2011. That would have been a great day to launch, but we chose not to. That's 13 years ago. So in the last 13 years, what have I been up to? And that's been helping get Dragon and Starliner.
Thanks also to John Richer for your support. Really appreciate it, John Richer. Thank you. Guys, 31 minutes. 31 minutes. We are getting very close to the first manned test flight, and this is supposed to be the only test flight of the Boeing Starliner, which is supposed to start taking astronauts to and from the space station. And also, Boeing could use it for private things if they wanted to. But one thing the Starliner is going to be used for, NASA's the anchor. So one thing the Starliner is going to be used for is to take astronauts to and from the space station. But this is going to happen in 30 minutes, guys. 30 minutes and 30 seconds.
Indeed, and I'll just say I've enjoyed working both with SpaceX and really with Boeing. I mean, when we saw our teammates on the montage earlier, it just it made me tear up a little bit, and I'm not afraid to say that because there's a lot of respect with the team.
And let's take another question now. This one is from World Citizen on YouTube asking, does the crew on the space station watch the launch?
So right now it's the middle of
L minus 30 minutes.
30 minutes to go.
RC, conduct weather briefing on Channel 8 Weather Conference Net.
Weather briefing. What's happening with the weather?
Arm control. Start arm hydraulic final preps.
Arm hydraulics.
Locks 1. Perform pogo suppressor charge.
Roger.
Prop 1. Perform RD-180 transducer converter calibration.
Roger.
P&E 2. Perform Centaur LH2 SVV cycle test.
Roger.
That's all the communications between the launch team, basically all the steps that's needed to get us to T0.
Yes, less than 30 minutes. Less than 30 minutes left. So aboard the International Space Station.
Thank you, Sean. I appreciate it. I believe I'm going to be covering the Starship, SpaceX Starship launch tomorrow morning. I believe so. I'm not 100% sure, but I am currently planning on covering it.
For the Starliner to arrive, and we're good friends with the crew on board, so it's going to be very cordial. But yes, I remember watching.
Thanks again, Sean.
and then when my friends landed on either the shuttle or on the Soyuz, we would try to watch the landing coverage too. So certainly we were always watching NASA TV.
And we did get a chance to talk to NASA astronauts Tracy Dyson and Jeanette Epps prior to launch.
Prop 1 LC.
Prop 1 go.
Are we complete?
Yes, RD-180 transducer converter calibration is complete and the engine FIV is open.
Roger. Flight control. Start flight control. Final prep.
Roger.
We were getting very close.
Go ahead.
Centaur LH2 SVV cycle tests are complete.
Roger.
Again, Tracy Dyson, Jeanette Epps, two of the astronauts that are on the International Space Station already. We did get a chance to talk to them prior to launch.
Brad says, hold on.
They said they are ready for Butch and Sunny to arrive. They've gotten...
Brad says, what happened to NASA space flights? This is a NASA space flight. It's NASA astronauts, and NASA's conducting the flight. But NASA has done this thing where they have contracted with private suppliers to supply the spacecraft and the rockets. So this is a Boeing spacecraft and a United Launch Alliance rocket, which is Boeing and Lockheed Martin. So NASA basically pays them to supply the spacecraft, to supply the vehicle, but NASA's overseeing the flight.
The flight control team here in Houston for go or no-go, verifying that all of Starliner systems are ready for launch. Everything is looking good at the moment, and Labors will use this poll to determine his own response to the final go-no-go poll by the launch conductor just before liftoff.
Once we do get into the terminal countdown time frame, there are a few major activities that the team will oversee. The first is Starliner's transition from ground power to battery power. That comes about 18 minutes before launch, and we leave it as late as possible so we can launch with those batteries as...
Go ahead. Arm hydraulic final preps are complete. Roger.
I think they're going to move that arm back.
We leave that power transition as late as possible so we can launch the batteries as close to full charge as possible. A few minutes later, with less than 10 minutes to go before liftoff, Starliner's ordnance will be armed. That activates the critical systems that are needed to detach all the things that Starliner would ultimately deploy or jettison as it climbs to orbit, or back for a landing if that became necessary. And then finally, just 1 minute and 15 seconds before launch, they'll work with the crew to activate the launch abort system, which would rocket the crew to safety in the case of an abort or on the pad early in the ascent.
This will likely be the last you hear from us until liftoff. So we are going to send you back to the team in Florida to let Megan D and Mike see us through the rest of the countdown. Go Starliner.
Now let's take a closer look at Starliner, the next generation crew capsule that you see atop the Atlas V rocket there on launch pad 41 on Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Mike, Starliner is something, like you said, and Butch and Sunny, you guys really have your fingerprints all over that.
Hey, real quick, thanks to Patty Takes Photos, who says this type of rocket, the Atlas V, also launches the X-37B, which is an orbital test vehicle. I don't think the NASA commentators will be talking about it. Yeah, I looked up the Atlas V rocket. It launches a bunch of different things. If you go to Atlas V rocket on Wikipedia, you can see that. Oh, hold on. They're talking about the Starliner.
To carry up to 7 astronauts or a mix of crew and cargo for missions to the International Space Station. After today's test flight, NASA will fly crews of 4 or 5 with cargo. Starliner is also reusable up to 10 times. I'm sure you're excited for your opportunity to fly in Starliner, Mike.
Oh, indeed. We're hopefully Butch and Sunny along with
thanks to 495-58201, our viewer as well. So we have 24 minutes. Wow.
And we're looking forward to flying next year.
Let's head back over to Johnson now, where we have Rob Navius with an update for us. Rob.
I have 2 different feeds. I'm switching back and forth here. Let's keep an eye on that right now. Wow, it's getting close. Hey, thanks, Andrew Schlegel, for the gift memberships. Really appreciate that, Andrew Schlegel. less than 24 minutes
As we mentioned
now.
earlier, in the midst of Starliner arrival preparations on the station, NASA astronauts Matt Dominic, Tracy Dyson, Jeanette Epps, and Mike Barrett are preparing spacesuits to be used for a trio of spacewalks scheduled to begin on June 13th. Other maintenance work is also planned for today by the expedition crew as they gear up for the docking of Starliner tomorrow to the forward port of the Harmony module. Once Starliner docks, it will be the 6th visiting vehicle at the International Space Station, a crowded house 260 miles above the Earth. We're standing by here in Michigan.
Hey guys, the United Launch Alliance, which built the rocket, they say on their social media that the launch weather officer confirms that all conditions remain observed and forecasts go for liftoff at 10:52, and they posted a visibility graphic that shows when the Atlas V rocket will rise into view for spectators along the East Coast today. I bet I could see it maybe if I went outside, but I'm not going to. Yes, from where I am, I might even be able to see it like 5 minutes after launch. I'm going to post the link to that. I'm going to post the link to the on my X account for the viewability graphic, and I'll post it in the chat too. If you're on the East Coast, you might be able to see it.
Around this time, during the last launch attempt, our team worked through what you may have seen a suit pressurization issue. They worked very quickly around this time in the countdown to make sure that everything was going smoothly with this. But when we switched to internal power at L-18 minutes, that triggered a small voltage trip, and flight software correctly identified it and turned off the fans. So we quickly turned them back on, just like you would do with your computer, off and on. And today we're going to turn the fan off when we move over to internal power so it doesn't trip again. Then we will turn it back on after. The real difference is that crew will lower their visors about 5 minutes later this time. That action would usually be taken around now or a minute or so from now, and we will listen for that in just a few minutes. The Capcom will tell the crew to put their visors down at that time, and that is a configuration that is needed for proper airflow through their suit. In an emergency, they could pressurize their suit.
Tori Bruno with the United Launch Alliance says, so far all go, working, no issues.
LCSYS.
Go ahead.
All secondary.
Huh? Uh-oh. Can't hear.
Secondary.
Can't hear. Can't hear.
Yeah, you're breaking up, SYS.
Slide on our link.
I did copy that. Please check your headset.
Check your headset.
All right, as I was saying, that in an emergency, they would be able to pressurize their suits quickly if needed. And it's a little different for them this time because, as we mentioned during this broadcast, their helmet is really more of a visor. It lays back like a hoodie on their shirt, and they pull it forward and then just zip it up. And this config also calls for them to deflate their lumbar support and secure their...
I'm getting kind of nervous. Anybody else getting nervous? I'm getting a little nervous just because it's so close. Let's hope this takes off and everything's safe.
Talking around L-19, we're also going to be looking for the Starliner readiness poll for terminal count. That will happen on a side channel, so I'll be listening for that, and I'll let you know when we hear it. We do have a few polls coming up. That one is short.
Some of our viewers say they're nervous. Marie Minicello, Papa Steve, Margaret Riley, one of our mods. We've got some nervous viewers. Lexa Fulmer, Berenico, yeah.
You see the room there on your screen.
Oh, minus 20 minutes. P&E1, reinitiate AHB charging.
Roger.
RLM, verify redline monitor and event table are in the correct configuration for terminal
deflate
count.
the lumbar support.
Verify. RC, verify solar radiation, acceptable for launch. Verified.
Ivan says, I'm so nervous.
Right, you.
Sushi says they got this.
Kind of came in faintly.
Starliner copies.
They asked them to go ahead and deflate their lumbar support. Wasn't sure if we're going to hear a little bit more about that. But again, there will be 3 calls coming up on this Starliner readiness poll for terminal count. They will pull the mission support room manager or MSR. After launch, the BMCC turns into mission support as things shift over to Houston. They will also poll the spacecraft test conductor who monitors our power systems.
Switch to channel 1.
All personnel and visitors remain in present position until launch. Maintain
Oh.
operational silence in the LCC.
Ooh, getting serious. It's been serious, of
This is
course.
the LC
Less
with
than
terminal
19
count
minutes.
briefing. If a condition exceeds a launch constraint anytime after the terminal count status check, the observer shall announce hold, hold, hold on channel 1, identify their station, and briefly state the reason for the hold.
We do not want to hear hold.
So, Lauren,
Remember-
as we were mentioning earlier, there's been traffic on multiple side nets, and that announcement that you just heard is Chief Launch Conductor Doug Lebo now bringing the team out from the individual subsystem nets, bringing everybody to the command channel, channel 1, for the final minutes of the countdown here. So we're gonna start to hear more traffic on the command channel as we start to do our final configuration steps for launch. So we're going to hear a couple of things. We're going to hear...
minus 18 minutes. Flight control, perform launch on time verification.
Roger.
We're going to hear some final avionics checks like that last call. We're going to hear hold fire switch verification. The range hold fire system allows representatives from Space Launch Delta 45 a hold button in the up the road at the Morrell Operations Center. So if there's an issue, a range safety issue that comes up, they can press a button and automatically stop our sequencer. So that's called a hold fire check. Those hold fire switches will be configured shortly, and we'll also start to hear calls about wrapping up our helium bottle charging on both the first and second stage.
It is
Dylan,
flying
as you
to the
mentioned,
International
with the
Space
traffic
Station.
on the loops increasing a little bit, you at home may notice that we are speaking less, and so we are going to be listening to some of these
Launch on
things
time verified.
as they happen live with
Roger.
you. And we feel it's important for you to be able to...
Go ahead.
AHB charging reestablished and at flight mass.
Roger.
They just said launch on time verified.
minus 17 minutes.
17
OSM,
minutes.
place SRB ignition SNA switch in the enable position.
SRB ignition enabled.
Verify FCO, RCO, and OSM hold fire switches are in their proceed position.
Ready to proceed.
All right, we're going to send it over to NASA's Daryl Nail at Hangar AE. Daryl.
All right, thank you very much. And getting a final look at the weather, I can tell you this, it's a beautiful day to fly. Outside, our launch weather officer told us that there's no change in the
Look at
forecast.
the
We are 90%
weather.
go, and what a beautiful shot of our beaches here from the courtesy of our chopper team here at the Kennedy Space Center. Folks coming out to enjoy the launch and an amazing day. Weather, no changes again. Low-topped cumulus clouds on
minus
land,
16
which you
minutes.
see some of it there, but because they're low-topped, that's not a concern. When a rocket flies through a big, thick cumulus cloud, it can trigger a lightning strike, but those clouds are not the kind that can do that, according to Launch Weather Officer Melody Lovin. And so we're good to go there. We also have a launch visibility is always a factor here in the southeast. Can you see the rocket and from where? And our friends
Look at
at the
this.
United Launch
See?
Alliance provided us
Oh, hold
with this
on.
graphic so you
Wait,
can
what
see
happened there?
about which point in the launch you would see the rocket. If you're within the first two inner circles, you should be able to see the solid rocket boosters jettison a minute after launch. Folks in the Orlando and Central Florida area will be able to see it about 90 seconds of flight, and then it will come into view for much of the rest of the state
Okay.
after more than about 2 minutes, including Tampa on the west coast of Florida. The southeast corner of Georgia might be able to see the Atlas Centaur separation, which happens after 3 minutes of flight. Again, we're looking good here at the ASOC. Richard Jones polled his team, the NASA operations manager,
15 minutes.
and all of them are go.
Flight, channel 1 and air to ground 1 are now merged, going to air to ground 1.
Roger.
Thanks to Ronald
Send it back
Egnor
to
and
us,
Bibi Mitali.
Flight, air to ground 1, ready for contact with Starliner on channel 1.
Roger.
Thanks,
Starliner,
Ronald
LC,
Egnor and Bibi
contact on
Mitali.
channel
Thanks for
1.
the Facebook stars. Appreciate it. Ronald and Bibi, thanks for the Facebook stars.
Starliner, loud and
clear. I have you loud and clear also.
14 minutes and a half, 14 and a half
You
minutes.
see there. Again, this is the test
Starliner,
flight.
Houston, contact air to ground 1.
Houston, Starliner, loud and clear.
Houston has you loud and clear on air to ground 1.
It is going to the International Space Station for around a week.
test
Takes
flight.
about 24
and Boeing
hours
is
to get to
working
the space
towards
station.
certification. To do that, there are a total of 87 flight test objectives
I am
and many
nervous.
more operational capability checkouts. So take a look at some of the main objectives with the crew
let's
on
go
board.
back
I'll go
here.
through a couple of them
we'll leave
here.
this up here.
So they will demonstrate the performance of crew-related equipment. The crew will perform hatch operations and transfer emergency equipment. They will also evaluate the vehicle and transfer cargo while in a docked configuration. They'll conform functionality of manual piloting and deorbit with a successful separation of the crew module from the service module. And finally, they will demonstrate Starliner's entry and descent. 13 minutes and 24 seconds from only the 6th time NASA astronauts will launch on a new spacecraft designed for crew. And if you're curious about the previous 5 flights, we have you covered. Check out our video here.
Hang on. This I'm going to go back over here. Sorry, oops. I'm going to go back over here. So, excuse me, 13 minutes. Oh my gosh. Yes, I'm a little nervous. I get nervous when these launches happen. I had some water and I was trying to talk and that didn't go so well. I was trying to do both at the same time. Yeah, so hopefully this goes well. Remember, the flight, this was supposed to happen on Saturday and they scrubbed it less than 4 minutes before liftoff.
Column closed.
You saw video there of Demo 2, May 2020, Doug Hurley, Bob Benken.
And then, of course, today's NASA's and Boeing's crew flight test with Butch Wilmore, and Sonny Williams.
You know, Mike, 12 minutes and 15 seconds to go. How are you feeling?
I am excited. I'm grateful to ULA and Boeing and NASA team that we are sharing this historic moment together. Go Starliner.
Yeah, our hearts and well wishes are with Butch and Sonny as they make history testing what is poised to be the second commercial crew vehicle that is certified to ferry people to and from the International Space Station. So with 11 minutes and 46 seconds to go, let's send it back over to ULA's Dylan Rice and Boeing's Lauren Brennicke to walk us through the final moments of today's launch countdown.
Wow.
Let's do it, guys.
11 and a half minutes.
Let's do it, Megan. We just heard the Starliner readiness poll is a go. We know the crew's visors are down now, so we are moving along smoothly into the final 11 minutes and 30 seconds of this countdown. This is an instantaneous launch window today, which means that we will launch when the orbital path for the ISS aligns with the Space Coast. Once we get into orbit, Starliner will be working to catch up with the space station, eventually reaching speeds of more than 17,500 miles per hour. It'll take about 25 hours or so to get there. And we are going to be watching here any minute.
Minus 11 minutes.
For the crew access
arm. Control, so the crew access arm for launch.
Roger.
Right on cue. Crew access arm about to start moving away from the spacecraft. And Dylan, we will watch it move very slowly today, but it could move much faster if needed.
That's right, Lauren. It takes about 2 minutes to rotate the 120 degrees back away from Starliner to its stowed position and latched position on the crew access tower. Here we go. But we could, in the event of an emergency, redeploy it in less than 15 seconds.
It's amazing that it can do that. We hope to not have to ever see that happen. After liftoff today, Brandy and Jim will continue commentary from Houston through ascent, spacecraft separation, and the orbital insertion burn. We will have the shot of Butch and Sonny inside Starliner until the moment of launch, and then we will get it again when we get to the ISS.
Minus 10 minutes. Flight, verify CST 100 on internal power. Verified. Starliner, configure ordnance for launch.
Touch and win.
All right, the spacecraft is running completely on its own now. And they are configuring ordnance for launch. That means the devices that initiate our separation events are ready to support both nominal and contingency operations that happen or could happen during ascent.
9.5 minutes.
So, Lauren, we're just about 2.5 minutes now away from our terminal count status check. The terminal count status check is the final report from each operator indicating that their system, whether it be a ground control system or a launch vehicle system, is ready to execute the final 4 minutes of the countdown to launching the rocket. At this point, if there were an issue, the anomaly team would be discussing it, but nothing like that has happened right now. All's quiet. I am expecting to hear all members of the team report go when pulled by Chief Launch Conductor Doug Lebo.
And we're actually hearing on a side channel that they are preparing for the launch vehicle systems poll. This is the long one. A lot of people view this as their favorite poll. It's kind of fun to listen to them list off each system, and then that team will give a final go or no go for launch.
And we
will be able to watch cameras on the rocket today, and live telemetry feeding back will provide a real-time look at the spacecraft model when video isn't possible during the ascent as it moves through the dynamic phases.
Let's hope everything goes well. I see people excited in our chat for this to happen. I'm excited too. 8 minutes. JB Rowland says biting nails.
Under 8 minutes before Butch and Sunny head back to a place they consider home. Both of them have spent 2 different stints of about 6 months on the International Space Station, and they are thrilled to be going back for a 3rd time. Sunny told me she even cried the last time she left the space station because she didn't know if she would ever go back. So this flight is a dream for her.
LC arm control.
Go ahead.
Arm
Crew
control.
access arms stowed for launch.
Roger. LC switch to ready position. All steps are complete prior to status check.
Let's listen in to Chief Launch Conductor Doug Lebo conduct that final terminal count status check as we prepare for launch.
-7 minutes.
Status check to proceed with terminal count. Atlas systems, propulsion.
Go.
Hydraulics.
Go.
Pneumatics.
Go.
LO2.
Go.
Water.
Go.
Centaur systems, propulsion.
Go.
Pneumatics.
Go.
LO2.
Go.
LH2.
Go.
Has gas.
Go.
Electrical systems, airborne.
Go.
Ground.
Go.
Facility.
Go.
RFFTS.
Go.
Flight control.
Go.
GCQ.
Go.
Op support.
Go.
COM.
Go.
Umbilicals.
Go.
Arm control.
Go.
ECS.
Go.
Redline monitor.
Go.
Quality.
Go.
Op safety manager.
Go.
ULA safety officer.
Go.
Vehicle system engineer.
Go.
Anomaly chief.
Go.
Range coordinator.
Clear to proceed.
Flight director.
Houston flight is go.
Starliner.
Starliner, go.
Launch director.
You have permission to launch.
Proceeding with the count.
All right, guys. Under
ALC,
6 minutes.
Verify
All
T0
goes.
set for 14:52:15 Zulu.
Verified.
Everything's a
Starliner,
go so
net is
far.
clear.
Thank you, LC. For everybody listening, just a thought. Sonny and I, as we were traveling to the pad, we saw many American flags, and many of you were waving flags at us. And then as we reached the pad, we look up, and of course there's that American flag on the side of the white room. Also one on the side of the rocket itself. And we know that that represents unity and resilience and unified efforts for the common good. And that's what Sonny and I have witnessed this last month. Each of you displaying what this nation's forefathers envisioned, a people committed to God, family, and country, a people who use their gifts and talents for the common good and are passionate and tough. And we all know that when the going gets tough, and it often does, the tough get going. And you have. And Sonny and I are honored to share this dream of spaceflight with each and every one of you. So with that, LC, let's get going. Now let's put some fire in this rocket, and let's push it to the heavens where all these tough Americans have prepared it to be.
All right.
Let's go, Calypso. Take us to space and back.
LC flight,
All right.
Starliner configured for terminal count.
On my mark, the time will be T-minus 4 minutes and counting.
Let's see. 4 minutes.
1, mark.
Last time the hold was at 3:50.
Clocks have
3:55.
resumed for
Ground
on-time
power is enabled.
liftoff.
There's 3:50.
Just
There's
beautiful
3:50.
words from Butch there. No better example of unity on this planet than what happens at the International Space Station, where Butch and Sunny are headed in just 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
No hold so far.
Atlas hydraulics at flight crash.
Atlas boosters hydraulic steering systems now pressurized for launch.
Still no holds. I like it. Whew.
Starliner's LAS prop valves are configured for launch, the propulsion valves that need to be open in the case of an abort from the pad.
3 minutes.
Pressurizing Atlas tanks. Securing LO2 topping.
250. FTS internal.
Flight software
are
is in
about to
ascent
do
mode.
this.
It is now set for the uphill climb.
No holds at the moment. One of our viewers says, oh, the suspense. That's what DK says. No holds. 2 minutes. No holds.
159. Vehicle internal. 155. Launch sequencer start. 150.
Securing Centaur LH2.
Securing Centaur LO2.
Vehicle is now transferred to its onboard batteries, and topping is
140.
completed.
Launch enabled. 137. FTS armed.
$126. Francis says goosebumps.
120. OCU's armed. SCS count started. EDS ascent.
Starliner, last arm to auto. Last arm auto.
Roger.
Lori and Mike
That call
says it's
meaning
happening.
if the emergency detection system on Atlas
minute.
detects something,
Rock report range status.
Range green. 54. POP started.
50 seconds.
it will trigger the launch abort system on Starliner and fire automatically. If that happened, the spacecraft would push itself away from the rocket a mile up and a mile out.
Atlas at
Wow.
flight crash.
$30 seconds.
30. Centaur at flight press. 25.
Status check. Go Atlas.
Go Atlas.
Go Centaur. Go
Go Centaur.
Starliner. Godspeed, Butch and Sunny.
Here we go. Here we go, guys.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. And
There we
liftoff
go.
of Starliner and Atlas V, carrying 2 American heroes.
Wow.
Online to the stars.
Check it out.
above us.
Wow. Pretty cool.
Commander Butch Wilmer, they're calling down to Mission Control here in Houston that the spacecraft has begun rolling into the right attitude for its ascent, and the guidance, navigation, and control officer here in the room seeing good data on that.
Wow. George says they are booking. Cool video. Look at this.
Starliner passing through max Q, or the point of maximum dynamic pressure where the forces of air friction are highest, which in Sunny will shortly be passing through Mach 1, where the speed of sound.
Amazing. Incredible. Wow, look at that video.
You got a good throttle up.
Starliner and Atlas. Looking good with speeds and attitude increasing as expected. Coming up in less than 20 seconds, the solid rocket boosters will run out of fuel and burn out.
Good SRB burnout.
Good SRB.
Now that the fuel in the solid rocket boosters has been depleted, the Atlas main booster stage will be continuing its burn for about the next 3 minutes.
Wow.
Good handle.
Good handle.
That call, good handle, from Capcom Joshua Kutrik, indicating that the crew now has the ability to initiate an abort manually if needed. All looking good so far. Now 2 minutes into Starliner's flight, and coming up on the solid rocket booster jettison at the 2 minute and 40-second mark.
There goes the booster, I guess. A lot of viewers saying amazing. It is incredible. It is incredible.
CLG net, good trajectory.
CLG.
The solid rocket boosters have now been jettisoned after seeing Starliner through its first 90 seconds of flight. Team on the ground here confirming that it was a good jettison and that the vehicle's trajectory continues to look good. Now 3 minutes into today's flight.
Russell says that view is definitely incredible. Christina Neal says amazing and beautiful. Technology's incredible, isn't it? Sunny California says, thank goodness it went well. By the way, a viewer had written in. I was under the impression that NASA was like running this because, you know, the capsule
Atlas
is
booster now throttling back to limit the G-forces on Butch and Sunny, trying to limit that to around 3.5 times the force of gravity you would feel while on the ground.
The Starliner is made by Boeing. The rocket is made by Boeing and Lockheed, United Launch Alliance. NASA is the customer for the spacecraft. But I was under the impression that NASA was running the flight. One of our viewers said, no, it's Boeing Space who's running the flight. So I don't know if it's like a combination. Who's in there running the flight? Is it a combination of NASA and Boeing Space? I don't know exactly. So if I got that wrong, I'm sorry. But I do know that NASA contracts with Boeing. Oh, hold on a second. That's video. We have a graphic and a video. We have two different things here. Oh, sorry, it's the same thing. Okay, there we go. Was that a replay? Did they just show a replay of the booster going off, maybe? I'm a little confused. We're not getting audio at the moment.
Staging.
Here in the ground.
Decals open. You have sublimator rack.
Decal sub-act. Decal. Great act.
Team on the ground reporting that they saw the ascent cover on top of Starliner that's been protecting the spacecraft's docking system through its climb into orbit. They saw that jettison as planned.
Staging was good. You have good control.
And now the second stage's 2 Centaur engines have ignited to continue pushing Starliner into space, fueled by liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. The next milestone that we'll be watching for is the aeroskirt jettison.
Yeah, everything that's like been jettisoned is supposed to be jettisoned. Nothing has fallen off that wasn't supposed to fall off. because they would say that. Now, I think what's happening is they lose live video because that's not live video. And then,
Starliner,
yeah, so...
you had good booster performance. You're up to plus 31.
Plus 31.
Yeah, this must be...
Atlas Control
like
reporting booster performance
graphics,
offset of 31 seconds of
graphics
ISP,
based on
or specific impulse, relative to its design baseline of around 450.
telemetry. I think it's live telemetry, right? It's not live video, it's live telemetry. So the numbers are live, live data. It's not, they don't have a drone, they don't have like a rocket flying next to this that's showing you video of this. That is a graphic based on the data. My guess is that they just lose the ability to have the video. I don't know for sure.
All continuing to perform well, almost 7 minutes into today's flight.
Sparky Pilot says they have the live video attached to the ship. I don't know if they're able to get that video in real time. You know, do they have it and just don't show it, or is it just recording but they can't get it in real time? Oh, you know what I can do to make it easier for you guys to see? Here's what I'll do. Watch this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this for you.
Good Centaur.
Capcom Joshua Kutrick. Continuing to pass good news up to Starliner's crew. At last one reporting that the Centaur upper stage remains in good condition and is performing well, pushing them into orbit.
There. I put the data over on the side so you could see it. See, I did that for you. Now you can see the data.
St. John's open.
St. John's.
Starliner is now entering its first guided abort range, where Starliner would direct itself towards a specific location in the event of abort. In this case, just off the coast of St. John's, the capital of the Canadian province of Newfoundland, Labrador.
Yeah, I am not a space expert, as I'm sure you can figure out, so I don't claim to be one. But again, I don't know for sure, and so I apologize if I got it wrong. I was assuming NASA was running the flight, but for all I know, it's Boeing Space or a combination of NASA and Boeing Space. I just don't know. I mean, it's NASA astronauts. Oh, one of our viewers, Kristen McKnight, actually...
Nico converged 11:52, 11:52. Good perf, you're at 34 to 36 seconds.
One of our viewers sent a photo from her house.
34 seconds.
Guys, I'm going to just show you something real quick. Check this out from Kristen
Crew know
McKnight.
that the main engine cutoff, MECO, should happen just about on time, about 12 minutes into today's flight. Another good indication that Starliner's ascent is taking along exactly as expected. Main engine cutoff is a major milestone marking Starliner's arrival on orbit.
Hang on a second here.
Still got about 2.5 minutes until we get to that. With the spacecraft continuing to perform well, make its way towards orbit.
No action, Starliner, on the LCL. That's just the system coming up into controlling mode.
Outstanding. No action.
Hey guys, real quick, let me show you this. Look at this. Our viewer sent in a photo of the rocket. Right there. Kristen McKnight
will be the
said shot from our house in Orlando.
Just short of
there it
15
is right
minutes
there.
after launch, when Starliner will separate from the rocket and fly free in space for the first time.
There it is from Orlando. That's from our viewer, Kristen McKnight. See? How about that? Pretty cool. Thanks, Kristen, for sending that in. Hey, thanks so much, Rumi. That's very kind of you, Rumi. I really appreciate
Flight
your
Dynamics
support.
officer reporting that at this point, Starliner could potentially make an abort landing off the coast of Ireland.
Thanks, Rumi, again. I appreciate it.
And they're, again, all continuing well, so we're not expecting to need that abort.
As Starliner is rapidly approaching orbital velocity, the support region is only available for just over 1 minute, where Starliner would just continue up to orbit after that.
Our viewer, Joe Soul, says, go Starliner, go. Yeah, everything's gone great so far as I can tell. I haven't heard of anything going wrong. It takes about 24 hours for it to get to the International Space Station, and then it'll be at the International Space Station for around a week.
30 seconds, D'Amico.
Just 30 seconds to go.
United
now
lost a lot.
Main engine cutoff, marking Starliner's arrival on orbit.
The United Launch Alliance says that it remains on course, flying up the U.S. eastern seaboard, soon to pass Halifax, Nova Scotia, before crossing the North Atlantic. Less than 2 minutes remain in powered flight. And that was a minute ago. So soon the engines will be off, and it'll just be in orbit. Oh, there's the graphic. You just saw on the graphic the engines cut off. See? Again, that's a graphic based on the live data. So you just saw that on the graphic, the engines cut off.
Nominal MECO Starliner.
Nominal MECO.
And with that nominal MECO call, that's main engine cutoff. We've got good energy, meaning a good velocity for continuing to orbit, and a good plane, meaning Starliner's trajectory is aligned with the International Space Station for rendezvous tomorrow.
And with that, Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams returned to orbit. Individually, they are both extremely experienced astronauts.
14:5 to 14:52.
So you can see, I guess they're making small adjustments, because you see in the graphic the engines come on, those small ones.
They're both very experienced astronauts with a combined total of 489 days in space between them. Starliner is also the third spacecraft that they've launched in. Both have traveled to the International Space Station via space shuttles and Soyuz, and are now well on their way to repeating the journey via Starliner. It's also worth noting that Williams' role as pilot marks the first time that a woman has crewed a flight test of an orbital spacecraft.
Just a few seconds ago, you heard Capcom Joshua Kutrich calling up to Butch and Sonny. With the expected time, Starliner will separate from Centaur at about 14 minutes, 52 seconds into flight. Just under 2 minutes from now, or 1 minute from now.
That is actually the last major milestone for Starliner's ascent. All the hard work is done, but we need for Starliner to be flying on its own before it can begin heading towards the International Space Station. There's a slight pause in the action here while Centaur repressurizes and does some attitude control. We'll get into the right orientation to send Centaur on its way, and then jettison it and move into the right orientation for the orbital insertion burn, which will come about 31 minutes into flight.
Centaur is the upper stage. We've seen it. This is the upper stage. Centaur is still attached to it, but Centaur will be jettisoned eventually. So that the long part with the thrusters at the bottom, that's Centaur.
No action.
So those when you see the thrusters at the bottom going, that's part of Centaur. That's the Centaur upper stage.
And about 10 seconds until an expected launch vehicle separation.
So we'll see the graphic when the launch vehicle separates. Again, it's based on the live data. There you go. So the launch vehicle has separated according to the graphic, according to the data. So Centaur's gone. There's Centaur. It's by itself, by Centaur. Ooh, now we have more graphics.
LV-SEP confirmed.
Good LV-SEP.
And now that Starliner has separated from this Centaur upper stage, we have a big thank you to our partners at ULA, providing Butch and Sonny a smooth ride to space.
See that? Thanks to our partners at ULA, because the ULA part is gone. ULA is the
activity,
rocket.
Though, the team will now be getting ready for the orbital insertion burn, which comes 31 minutes after flight. So that's still about 15 minutes away now. Sonny Williams and Butch Wilmore will be getting their tablets out and doing a few other activities to get Starliner ready for that. And that will be one of the that will be the first in a series of burns that will set Starliner on its way to the International Space Station.
Hang on one sec here. I'm going to take some comments from you guys. Now that we have a little more room to talk. That's too big. Let's do that. Oops.
Once again, Starliner with astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams on board launched from Florida, the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, Launch Pad 41 at 9:52 a.m. Central, 10:52 a.m. Eastern today, and they have now made it into orbit.
Your nominal TDRS show MDL is active. You have good targeting for OI.
Hey, thanks to Debbie James for the gift memberships, and also thanks to Donna M. Kamalu for becoming a member. So they said thanks to ULA because ULA is what that's
with the call for good targeting and information about Starliner's TDRS schedule being good means that we've got good communication with the ground. TDRS is the tracking relay data satellites that Starliner uses to talk to the ground, and the flight controllers on the ground are seeing the dynamic.
Go ahead.
Yeah, if you could relay a message to our brethren at ULA.
We're all listening. Go ahead.
Yeah, they've been a member of the family for a long time, but now it's official, and we want to welcome them to human spaceflight.
We all copy all and really appreciate the words.
So ULA is the joint venture of Lockheed Martin and Boeing, which makes the rocket.
And Houston Starliner, we are on the tablets and in insertion monitor.
Copy tablets, we're with you, insertion monitor.
And so the rocket's gone. The rocket's been jettisoned. So ULA's work is basically
no longer
done.
Using the paper procedures now that the vehicle has stopped moving so quickly.
And it's going to dock tomorrow. About 24 hours to get to dock, to get to the
mostly
space
just
station.
prepare the inside of the cockpit, so they are looking at the right data to prepare for the upcoming orbital insertion burn. The vehicle itself has done a few things recently. Started to power on the solar rays on the back of Starliner and turning off several of the thrusters that are no longer needed at this phase of flight. Upcoming in about 4 minutes, Starliner is going to start to orient itself in the direction it needs to do the orbital insertion burn. And the crew inside the vehicle will be turning the wireless access point on and allow them to stream some of the data from the spacecraft onto their procedure tablets.
Thanks also to Stevie Yagi.
Starliner, last arm is off. Backup control switches, enable 1 on, enable 2 off. SM RCS is the mode.
We copy off. Enable 1 is on. Enable 2 is off. SM RCS, you're in a good config.
Thanks, Stevie Yagi, 1992. Thank you, Stevie Yagi. I don't know what day it comes back. That's a good question.
Targets are on board and good.
UDXPD.
At 31 minutes, 31 minutes, there will be the orbital insertion burn.
Things will be pretty quiet as Starliner gets into position for the orbital insertion burn. That's still about 10 minutes away. Starliner is actually designed to be pretty autonomous and, in fact, docked with the space station on its last trip around without the help of any crew on board. But we do still want to know that if needed, Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams could take control and manually abort the spacecraft's approach to the station if they needed to. So to prove that, one of the few things on their agenda after they reach orbit will be to perform a test of the manual piloting mode.
My understanding of that the orbital insertion burn is a procedure which will allow it to achieve a stable orbit.
This test will involve first pointing Starliner's nose towards the Earth so that its communication antenna on the back of the service module is pointed at the satellites, the teeter satellites that allow it to communicate with the team on the ground. They'll then move Starliner so that its solar arrays are pointed at the sun, showing they could charge Starliner's internal batteries as needed. And they'll follow that up with a demonstration of the star trackers, one of the ways that Starliner determines where it is in space, pointing Starliner away from Earth so that the system, the Vesta system, can get a good look at the stars.
The next step will be for the crew to manually speed Starliner up and then slow back down, which will slightly raise and then lower their orbit and prove that they can manually break away from the orbit that the space station is in if they needed to. At that point, they can move on to the last
Starliner,
items of the
still no
test.
action on your cabin temp. You're in a good config. It's 74 degrees in there. Yeah, and that's just due to that T2 sensor sitting beside the light. So we're actually going to inhibit that particular sensor. We'll let you know when we bring it back online.
Okay, great. Looks like we're on our way to thrust line.
Concur.
It sounds like they were getting like a faulty sensor reading or something.
Josh Gutrick calling up that the crew can ignore some alarms they're seeing on the temperatures inside Starliner. That's just a result of one of the sensors being next to a light that's causing it to show higher than it actually is. But it sounds like the crew are pretty comfortable and are getting into place for that orbital insertion. As I was saying, after they have manually broken away from the orbit of, proven that they can manually break away from the orbit of the space station, they are going to move on to the last items of their test for tonight. That's manually moving Starliner into the right orientation for re-entering the atmosphere, and then moving back into the attitude that will let them soak up some sun with the solar arrays and try a different method of manually charging the spacecraft's batteries. But again, once that all has to wait until after the orbital insertion burn. This is, again, the first of several burns that will put Starliner on its way to the International Space Station. We've still got about 6.5 minutes until we fire up the engines for that burn.
Yeah, we're not. One of the viewers said, "Are we watching until docking?" No, because it takes about 24 hours for it to get to the space station. So we will not be watching till docking.
Starliner, we did not see the hand controller deflection. Just wanted to know if you did that yet.
No, we'll get it now.
All good.
So if this flight goes well, then in theory, eventually the craft will be certified for operational use, and then sometime early next year, it's supposed to do its first operational mission to take astronauts to the space station. So it is taking astronauts to the space station, but this is still considered a test flight. This would be its one manned test flight. No, this spacecraft has had 2 orbital flights, and the last one in 2022 actually did dock with the space station, but it did not have a crew on it. So they said the orbital burn is in about 5 minutes and 15 seconds. Sorry, the volume is a bit, it's just low from the source. It's just low source volume.
Team here on the ground seeing that everything is looking like it's in the right configuration for the orbital insertion burn. Now less than 5 minutes away. Starliner is currently about 102 miles above the Mediterranean Sea, heading southeast over India in the next few minutes.
Starliner, good config for the OI burn.
Good config for OI.
And good config from the OI burn. Crew and ground control is noting that Starliner is pointed in the direction it needs to for the OI burn. It should also be about the time that the crew are using their tablets for their procedures, also charging them, keeping them topped up for the rest of the rendezvous.
Deborah Hennessy says, wow, 26 minutes from Florida
Williams
to
and
India.
Wilmore as they work through this procedure. Although we had a view of them from inside the cabin on the ground, Starliner isn't able to send that view to us again until it gets to the International Space Station. So you'll be seeing this screen quite a bit as Starliner was getting into the right position for the burn. And actually just now you can see some of the engines firing that help it steer and move around in space. And you can also see what attitude it's in at any given time. Lots of good information on this screen.
It is. A lot of this information actually directly mimics the views that the crew is seeing, especially the one in the upper left-hand panel. That is an exact copy of the display the crew is using for their attitude directional indicator. It also covers what mode their translational hand controller and the translational pointing is in. On the left side, on the right side, the pointing guidance, which tells the Starliner in automated mode which direction to point, or when in manual mode which direction the crew needs to move the vehicle, like we're going to do in some of the manual piloting maneuvers. And following back up a little bit on the camera conversation, there is a planned upgrade of the Mustang system that we should see on our PCM-1 mission that will include live feeds from inside the cockpit.
And the Mustang system is the cameras that we were seeing views from earlier.
That's correct. There's a handful of cameras around the inside of Starliner. We often see the one from kind of beneath Butch and Sunny. That's given one of the better views without being directly right in their face while they're inside the cockpit during pre-launch. But once they're in orbit, they've gotten out of their seats a little bit, and we should be able to see a little bit more around the cabin.
We'll, though, as you've already heard, continue to hear regular audio updates from the crew. Everything going well now that Starliner is just under 30 minutes into today's flight. We've got about a minute and a half left to go into that orbital insertion burn that will be kind of the final end cap, really, to today's ascent, which, again, took place at 10:52 a.m. Eastern when Butch Wilmore and Sunny Williams launched inside the first Starliner to carry crew members on board from the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, Launch Pad 41. They made it to orbit about 14 minutes later, and now we are just again waiting for this first of a series of burns that will set Starliner on its way to a rendezvous with the International Space Station that is scheduled to take place at 12:15 p.m. Eastern, 11:15 a.m. Central tomorrow.
Yeah, so over 24 hours till it rendezvous with the space station.
And we're coming up at about 40 seconds till the orbital insertion burn. This burn is going to take Starliner out of its slightly suborbital trajectory and push it up to an altitude that will allow us to catch up with ISS for a rendezvous later tomorrow.
Get ready. Orbital insertion burn coming up in about 18 seconds, supposedly.
15 seconds left to go, and once again, you'll be able to see those engines firing on this digital screen here. that show when the burn has started.
Here we go. Oh, I see some engines firing. I see some
2
engines
seconds.
firing. Oh, let's see. That wasn't it, I guess. Here we go. All right, is it happening? Oh, there we go. We got engines firing. Orbital insertion burn underway, guys.
And flight controllers here in Houston, seeing 4 good OMACs, good burn.
There you go. Pretty neat. Okay, it looks like, is that it? Is it over? The end of the orbital insertion burn? Are they done? They're clapping. They're clapping.
We took a
Mission
look.
control.
That was a good OI burn. You're maneuvering to NavCal 1.
Look, they're clapping, clapping, shaking hands. Yay!
Good eye burn.
Clapping.
Going to NavCal 1.
Everybody's clapping. I guess that went okay.
And with that call up, both crew and flight controllers agreeing that that was a good OI burn. I'm looking at the trajectory plot here in Mission Control. I see our trajectory pointing us directly up to the altitude we need to go to for the next burn. Right now, Starliner is moving into NavCal mode, or NavCal attitude. That's going to be the first of several positions that Starliner, directions that Starliner points itself to track some of the stars from the Starliner and update the position inside of the position orientation of Starliner inside of its guidance, navigation, and control algorithms.
So it certainly seems like that was an important moment.
Happy faces and cheers here there in Florida. Everybody glad to see Starliner safely in orbit with Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams in tow, sending it on its way to the International Space Station for docking tomorrow at 12:15 p.m. Eastern Time.
So I guess it's in orbit now.
Once
Is
again,
that the
Starliner
idea?
safely on orbit, has conducted
It
a
is in
good
orbit.
orbital insertion burn and is on
There
its
you go.
way.
Right. So I guess it's in the position and going at the speed now where it can just free float. It's going at a certain speed, and it's falling, but the Earth curves. So if you think about it, the Earth is round. So if it goes fast enough, it falls towards Earth at a rate that it just matches the curvature of the Earth. So it just
Starliner Houston.
it just keeps going around at the same height. It's at a speed where it's just going to keep going around at the same height.
Yeah, you do have good cooling. The sublimator is working. We are watching it, though, because the water usage is just a little more than we thought we were going to see. You probably noticed that. It's a reason for the advisory there. From the ground, we'd like to swap you over to the other leg. So we're going to close sublimator leg 1, wait for about 60 seconds, and then open up leg 2. You'll see us do that. No impact or action.
Okay, we copy. We'll be watching. Thank you.
NASA says...
Joshua Kutrick there again, giving the crew some words about information they're seeing on orbit. This one related to sublimators, which are used to cool the spacecraft down. But just letting them know that there's nothing that they need to be concerned about. The team will keep watching that. In the meantime, as Starliner begins making its way to the International Space Station, we're going to check in with Rob Navius in the International Space Station Flight Control Room. Rob?
Yeah, thanks very much, Brandy. With Starliner en route to the station, the work now just beginning for Wilmore and Williams. First up, an important rendezvous burn called the NC burn, which will adjust Starliner's altitude relative to the station and begin to refine its path to the orbital laboratory. Flight Dynamics will be assessing the accuracy of Starliner's initial trajectory and will update any adjustments to that trajectory for subsequent maneuvers to be conducted over the next 24 hours. Now, we're expecting to hear the first of 3 audio reports from the crew during their free flight on how the ride uphill to orbit was before they move into what are called far-field demonstrations of the vehicle. That will include manual piloting tasks and a manual translation control test. That will prove Starliner's ability to execute a manual docking if required, as well as an abort capability prior to docking. Keep in mind, we're providing continuous coverage now of Starliner's flight to the International Space Station. On Thursday morning, rendezvous operations will begin in earnest shortly before 10 a.m. Eastern Time, leading to a targeted docking for Starliner to the station at 12:15 p.m. Eastern Time. So please stay with us around the clock as we bring you every minute of Starliner's flight. For now, we're going to sign off from the International Space Station Flight Control Room here in Houston and go back to Megan, Dee, and Mike Fink at the Cape.
I have a cool graphic
and
to show
welcome
you
back
guys.
to the Space Coast of Florida, where about 36 minutes ago we witnessed the launch of the United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket carrying the first 2 astronauts, NASA's Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams, inside Boeing's Starliner capsule to the International Space Station. The first time ever, Starliner now in the right orbit to rendezvous with the space station in just over 25 hours. How are you guys feeling? How was it to watch launch? Again, just right over the water behind us here.
I mean, this is extremely exciting, obviously a long time coming and a culmination of so much hard work by so many teams. But of course, we're going to be even happier when we see Starliner dock, and even happier when the hatch opens and we watch Suni and Butch float into the International Space Station.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, well said, Dee. I mean, this is exciting. We've built up to this moment for years and years, and it finally happened. I got to see a Starliner launch with my friends on board. How cool is that? And I could feel like the whole planet was cheering for them.
Yeah, it was really nice to see it happen. There were a lot of emotions here at the host desk among the 3 of us, as well as the crew that's supporting us here on the host desk. And it's just a history-making launch. Suni, again, the first woman to test an orbital spacecraft. That's amazing. And then again, the last time people flew to space in an Atlas-class rocket, 61 years ago. CFT, this final test to certify Starliner, and then once in orbit, the first time in NASA.
I'm going to show you guys something in a second.
The agency will have 3 different crew spacecraft operating in space simultaneously. So that's the International Space Station, SpaceX's Crew Dragon, and again, once Boeing Starliner spacecraft gets there, Boeing Starliner spacecraft. So really just like a lot to celebrate. It's amazing. You know, Mike, I know you've been part of Starliner's journey from the very beginning, working alongside Butch and Suni and all the teams across Boeing.
Hey guys, I'm going to show you this real fast. We were talking about being in orbit. I found a kind of a neat explanation from NASA at spaceplace.nasa.gov of how objects stay in orbit. I want to show you that real quick. So check this out right there. It says, an object in motion will stay in motion unless something pushes or pulls on it. This statement is called Newton's first law of motion. Without gravity, an Earth-orbiting satellite would go off into space along a straight line. With gravity, it is pulled back towards Earth. A constant tug-of-war takes place between the satellite's tendency to move in a straight line, or momentum, and the tug of gravity pulling the satellite back. An object's momentum and the force of gravity have to be balanced for an orbit to happen. If the forward momentum of the object is too great, it will speed past and not enter into orbit. If the momentum is too slow, the object will be pulled down and crash. When these forces are balanced, the object is always falling towards the planet, but because it's moving sideways fast enough, it never hits the planet. So that is what is happening. You can see the graphic there from NASA. It's going at the exact right speed such that it keeps falling towards the Earth, but it stays the same height above the Earth. That is what is going on. And it is at the same height and speed, I believe, as the International Space Station, although there's maybe a slight difference. Eventually, it'll rendezvous with the space station, at which point it will obviously be at the same height and speed. But that's the general idea. It's really cool, and that is from NASA. That graphic right there, spaceplace.nasa.gov. Okay, and let me go back here to our graphic of the data. See what they're saying.
The one they call themselves Crew 1. Well, we're Starliner 1, and we'll be ready to fly when the spacecraft is.
Right, and so obviously there's still a lot on this road.
Yes, I will post a link to that page right now.
Next year on Starliner 1. Mike, I know that there's a bunch of people here who are very excited for you, so much so that they created this shirt.
Oh, no.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to cover the docking tomorrow. I mean, the docking is interesting, and you can watch the NASA coverage of it, but it's not like it's huge breaking news, the docking. I am planning on covering the the SpaceX Starship launch tomorrow morning. And SpaceX Starship launches on it's a manned spacecraft that's in development. Well, it's a spacecraft that's in development that can carry people, and it launches on the most powerful rocket ever built. And they are doing a test flight tomorrow where, if I have it right, they're going to try to recover both the rocket part and the spacecraft part. They want them both to do a reentry tomorrow. It's supposed to be a fully reusable space launch, space travel system where you can reuse the rockets and you can reuse the spacecraft. And that is supposed to go eventually to the moon and Mars and beyond, says SpaceX. So that's going to be the 4th test flight of Starship. And that is going to be tomorrow at, when is the flight scheduled? Is it like 8 a.m. or something like that? Hang on. I can find it here. One moment. Some of you probably know when. I'm looking it up. I had it before. Oh, there's a 120-minute launch window that opens at 7 a.m. Okay, it's a 120-minute launch window. It's not an instantaneous window like this was. They have some leeway. So it is a 120-minute launch window which opens at 7 a.m. 7 a.m. Central Time. 7 a.m. Central Time, 8 a.m. Eastern Time is when a 2-hour launch window opens. Okay? And the focus of the SpaceX Starship flight tomorrow is to demonstrate the ability to return and reuse Starship and the Starship spacecraft in the Super Heavy rocket. And they say that SpaceX says their primary objective for the flight tomorrow is to execute a landing burn and soft splashdown in the Gulf of Mexico with the Super Heavy booster and achieve a controlled entry of Starship. So that is tomorrow. So I am planning on covering that. By the way, if you want to stay with, I'll say this for a little while longer. But as this mission continues, which is the Boeing Starliner manned test flight, NASA says they're going to be doing a bunch of coverage of this, and NASA's going to be covering the docking in about 24 hours with the space station. So you'll be able to watch that on NASA's social media. I'm not going to go live for the docking, but I am planning on being live for the launch of the SpaceX launch tomorrow morning. I want to figure out here, I don't know if I'm going to stay on for this, but I don't think I'm going to. I mean, you know, there's, at a certain point, NASA is doing a press conference about this launch, but I mean, the launch went fine. Yeah, according to, there's a press conference at 12:30, so yeah, I don't think I'm going to stick. I don't think I'm going to stick around for the press conference at 12:30. I think we're kind of reaching. You know, it's a live breaking news channel I do here, so we're kind of reaching the natural end of this stream. I think it's kind of getting to that place. But yeah, so in theory, tomorrow is the SpaceX Starship launch, and the launch window opens at 8 Eastern. So I would probably come on the air at like maybe 7 or 7:15, maybe. What am I hearing? Oh, sorry. Yeah, 7:15 maybe. I think Eastern time. That's when I think I'll probably end up. Oh, why is that thing on? Hold on, I gotta get rid of this thing. Yeah. Okay, so that's my plan. That is my plan. And then if something happens later today or at night, you know, big news, we'll just cover that as regular news channel coverage. Xylee says, I'm more hyped for tomorrow than today. Oh, thanks, by the way, to Bruce Kaiser. I missed Bruce Kaiser's donation. Bruce Kaiser says, look up orbital mechanics. Maneuvering gets complicated once you're in orbit. Thanks, Bruce. So I really appreciate you guys joining the stream today. Oh, whatever happened to the Bezos launches? Blue Origin is doing launches still, by the way. I don't cover all of them. I covered them, and I didn't cover all of them. I think I covered the first one. Maybe I covered a couple of them. But Blue Origin is still doing launches, and they're also working on a moon lander, I think. Where is New Shepard New Shepard is a passenger vehicle from Blue Origin. They actually just did a launch on May 19th. On May 19th, 2024, New Shepard for Blue Origin did a launch. That's for space tourism. Anyways, but they're also working, I think, Blue Origin on a lunar lander. Anyways, let's. I want to thank you guys for being here today. Really appreciate you joining the stream, and thanks for letting me read your comments and sending me comments and updates. And that photo that the viewer sent in of seeing the rocket, which was really cool. And let's see here. Hang on a second here. Oh, I have another rocket photo. I have a fake. Actually, I'm not sure if that one's real. I have a fake. Somebody sent me, I think, a fake rocket photo. Yeah, Amanda sent this from Merritt Island, Florida. Our viewer, Amanda, said this is from Merritt Island, Florida. See that right there? Hold on, I'll show you. Thanks, Amanda, for sending that in. That's pretty cool. And then another viewer sent in something. Kristen McKnight sent the first one in. And then Chris, our viewer Chris, sent this one in from wherever Chris is. So a bunch of people were able to see the launch. So I appreciate those photos. Yeah, no, I didn't show you what I didn't show you the photo that I think is fake. I didn't show you that one. Hey, what was I going to say? Hey, this is Agenda Free TV. Subscribe to and follow the channel. We cover all kinds of live breaking news here without an agenda. Oops, I have to fix our headline though. The headline's got to get fixed because it was fixed before. But when I go to me, I'm going to go to do the close up here just on me. Here we go. That's better. We will, if there's big news later tonight or tonight, we'll come on the air and cover it. So subscribe, follow Agenda Free TV. We cover all kinds of live breaking news without an agenda. And appreciate you tuning in and all of your comments in the chat. And a lot of you know more about space than me, so I appreciate your help in covering this. And what was I going to say? Hey, a big thanks to our moderators. They are the reason that we can have chat rooms. So I really, really appreciate our moderators. They are awesome. Richard Williams, Kinetic, has been there. BZ and Carms. We've had a lot of moderators in and out today. Much appreciated. Donnie Davio, Linda Belk and Larry moderate for us on X. Over on Twitch, Big Ball of Yarn, Bastion Girl, David Green, Good Luck Duck, Hearsay, I Got That Fire, Sarah, and Papa Bear. And Kay Lowry Body over there on Facebook. Christina Neal, Margaret Riley, Paul Anderson. Thanks to all of our moderators. Thanks to everybody who donated too. That's really nice of you guys. Really appreciate your support of the channel. If you ever want to donate, you can go to agendafree.tv, agendafree.tv, but you keep this channel on the air, so thanks so much. I should mention too that, thanks to Margaret Riley and BB Matali for the Facebook stars. And I thanked Ronald Egnor before, and Lori Hawkins, and Ruby Olinger and Soma Amar. Thanks for the Facebook stars. And thanks to BEZ Radio for the gift sub on Twitch. Sign up for our free notifications. We have a notification system because I never know when big breaking news is going to happen, so I can't tell you in advance when we're coming on the air usually. So sign up for our free notifications so you don't miss a live stream. You sign up once, it's free, and then we send you a message whenever we're going live right before the broadcast. It works awesome. The mods can post the link to the notifications in the chat, and also hold on, I tried myself. Though you can find the links to the notifications on the Facebook and YouTube descriptions for this broadcast. And what was I going to do? I remembered something I needed to do for the channel when I finished the stream, and I can't remember what it was. I remember. Let's see here. And just a reminder, if you do subscribe on YouTube and you want to get the YouTube notifications, you need to do this thing where you click this notifications bell and you choose all notifications. I know it sounds a little confusing, but just for those of you who subscribe on YouTube, remember, for those of you who subscribe on YouTube, click the bell and choose all notifications. Okay, and if you do sign up for the Discord notifications, at that same link you can check out our Discord chat, which is a chat where you can chat with other viewers when we're not on the air, which a lot of viewers like to do. So check out our Discord chat, and big thanks to our Discord mods. Really appreciate it, Discord mods. If anybody out there is interested in being a volunteer moderator, that'd be awesome. Sometimes there's a wait list for that, but you can ask our mods for more information. And a reminder, I also have a personal channel where I do some non-news live streams, and that is called Lookner on YouTube and Look Nerd with a D on Twitch. Lookner and Look Nerd. Check that out if you want to see some non-news live streams. Let's see. Also, I want to thank our Twitch subscribers. Thanks so much to our subscribers over on Twitch, like Jackson22, Sarah, I Got That Fire, and BEZ Radio, and Integrity Farmer Bob, and Wall Street, and Shaggy, and Agrajog TV. All of our subscribers over there on Twitch, thank you. Let's see here. Blue Pip, thank you, Twitch subscribers. Thanks to our Facebook subscribers too, and I know the badges are not working. The Facebook subscriptions is all messed up. Facebook screwed it up. It's crazy. I've been dealing with them, trying to get this thing fixed. It is awful. Their customer support, it basically couldn't be worse. It's really, really bad. I don't want to get into it, but it's awful. But hopefully they can fix this issue so we can get the subscriber badges up there on Facebook. So thanks to all of our Facebook subscribers. And thanks also to our YouTube members, Deborah Hennessy, Darian Gales, Marissa Pugliese, UV Lightning. These are just some of our members on YouTube. Mary McHugh, Dean R, Sinan, He Is Reason, The One and Only, Casey Promise, Eddie M, Sam Stamos, Nini, Amy, Xylee, Game Slayer, Wickedest Witch, Editor Larry, Brittany Horton, Darian Gales, Lois Cox, Blissy, Ka, Editor Larry, all of our YouTube members, thank you. Again, I'm sorry, the Facebook subscription thing is really annoying me. But all I can do is talk to them and get them to fix it. And thanks to our members, Sing Neon as well. All right, about to wrap this up. Let me just make sure there's no big news from the space launch, from the space flight. But we are about to wrap it up. Everything seems to be going very well. Yes, Boeing Space says that the Starliner has reached a safe, stable orbit on its crew test flight. That seemed like the big thing. Once they did the orbital insertion maneuver and they were in the safe, stable orbit, then you saw everybody at Mission Control start clapping and hugging and everything. Hey, thanks so much, Richard Williams, for your kind words, too. And thanks, Richard, for moderating. Richard Watch is a big fan of space coverage in general. So appreciate it, Richard. Thank you. All right, guys, we are wrapping it up. Again, tomorrow my plan is to cover the SpaceX Starship launch, which is the 2-hour launch window opens at 8 a.m. Eastern time. So I'll probably get on the air around like 7:15 a.m. Eastern time. Early for us here. Thanks to our other viewers. Oh my gosh, look what it says. It says Biden border announcement. Obviously, you know what happened is we haven't been on this screen until the end of the broadcast. The whole time I was doing the broadcast, I was on, we were showing the NASA footage. And what I didn't realize is I hadn't updated the graphic from yesterday. So obviously we're not covering the Biden border announcement. That's what the graphic should be. Yeah, so I'm sure you were saying this in the chat. We hadn't been on this shot. So anyways, sorry about that. Once in a while I forget. Well, normally I catch it, but we just weren't using this shot the whole broadcast. I think this is the first time this broadcast I've used this shot, so I didn't even notice that it had Biden's picture. Yeah, we were covering that. We were covering that before. Anyways, I fixed it. Sorry about that. Technical glitch. Anyways, thank you again for tuning in, and more streams soon. And again, if there's big news later today or tonight, we will cover that as well. Janet Burnett, another one of our members. Thanks, Janet. And let me just make sure here. All right, I think we're good to go. All right, guys. Again, thank you for watching. Thanks again to all of our moderators. Oh, by the way, Ronald, when I was mentioning the mods, Ronald Egnor was also moderating on Facebook as well. So thanks, Ronald. All right, guys, it is time. Wrapping it up. ZZ Fly, thanks for watching. Trillion, Iconcast, Geeg, Meg, L, Coach, and Marissa Pugliese, and all of our other viewers. Thank you for watching. Glittercat, Ryan the Gamer, Nick Nembus, and others. That is it for now. Thank you for watching our live coverage of the launch of the Boeing Starliner manned test flight. I hope they have a great rest of their flight. They'll be docking with the space station tomorrow and staying there for about a week. That is it for now. Thanks for watching. And oh, by the way, I don't know. We probably won't do this because I don't think we're going to cover the re-entry of the Boeing Starliner when it does re-entry, but you never know. I'll keep an eye on it. Anyways, thanks for watching. We'll see you soon with more live breaking news coverage right here at Agenda Free TV.